Testing for caption or testing. Caption or testing. Testing. Today is June 9, 2026. This is the City of Rohnert Park City Council meeting. Testing. Running a caption or test. I can connect to the check timer.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is June 9th, and we are going to go ahead and get started with our City Council meeting. There was a little bit of a delay because the World Wide Web is failing us a little bit right now. So we are recording. I believe that the broadcast will just be a little bit delayed. So those people sitting on the edge of their seats at home are just going to have to wait and find out how much fun we had. Okay, so we are going to start with the roll call.
Councilmember Adams? Here. Councilmember Judice?
Present.
Councilmember Rodriguez? Here. Vice Mayor Alwer?
Here.
Mayor Sanborn?
Here.
All council members are present.
Thank you. And if we could please rise for the reading of the land acknowledgement. The City of Rohnert Park acknowledges Indigenous people as the traditional stewards of the land. Let it be acknowledged that the City of Rohnert Park is located within the traditional homelands of the Federated Indians of Great and Rancheria, comprised of Coast Miwok and Southern Pomo peoples. And our Pledge of Allegiance as well. Ms. McKenzie, would you be able to lead us? Thank you. And we don't have any presentations or department head briefings on the agenda tonight. So we will then move to item 6, which is public comment. If anybody who would like to speak at this time on anything not on the agenda wants to come on up to the podium, now is a great time to do that. You get 3 whole minutes of uninterrupted attention. And then we have a few public comment cards. Item 4, item 3. I'm confused here. So there's no agenda item noted, so I'll just assume they are all for right now. Okay, great. So we have Mr. Alexander and Ms. McKenzie. Go ahead. When you see red, it's a good thing. Right. Yeah.
Red always makes me feel like I'm
It's alert. Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, Madam City Manager, Madam City Attorney, and staff. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I just have a brief comment I wanted to talk to you about Rohnert Park History Day. At the end of February, I was down here and I was talking to you about, I gave you an update about the library and the strategic plan review that we had done. And at the end of that presentation, I mentioned two things that I wanted to come back and update you on. And one is Rohnert Park History Day, and the other one is about the closure of our library in September. In terms of History Day, we had a History Day a couple of years ago. It was at the Faith Presbyterian Church, the first time they would organized an event like that since we have this archives group. And so we felt like it was time to do another one. The update on the archives group is that we are now a subcommittee of the Sonoma County Historical Society, so we're official and we have an official nonprofit number. And we'll be operating as a committee of the Sonoma County Historical Society until we get our own nonprofit status again, which is a lot of paperwork and so forth, so that's in process. So this will be at the library this time, and we invited the city of Cotati to join us. And so we are having a joint Rohnert Park Cotati History Day on July 25th. I think you all put on your calendars last time. But I have a kind of a interim flyer that I wanted to bring down and give to you. It's kind of a save the date, but general description. But it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have speakers from both cities. We're going to have display tables. The History and Genealogy Library is going to come down and talk about the resources that are available to all of us. We have a trivia contest, and I think we're going to have a really cool book bag that we'll be giving out. So anyway, I'll bring these over to Sylvia to pass your way. So that's going to be History Day, and I want to invite everybody, of course. I also saw on Facebook that there's going to be Founders Day again this year, which is great, and that Jennifer Wiltermuth and Sherry Lorenz are working on that. And one member of our archives group has been to an initial meeting about that, and we do expect to have a archives display in the community room in the community center, in the lobby. So we're working on that as well. And then lastly, the renovation of the library. So for people who don't know, and there'll be a lot more publicity about this eventually, but the library will be closed from September through the end of the year, unfortunately, a long time. And when it reopens, it will have the air conditioning and lighting fixes that the city is paying for. It will have with a cost share from the library, and then the library system is paying for painting and carpeting, so it'll be nice and fresh inside, and we'll have some new furniture. One of the items of the new furniture will be, keep your fingers crossed, a display case for some of the archives. So that's in the planning, and I hope that it comes to pass. So anyway, I wanted to update you that, and I'll bring the flyers over, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that update. Mr. Alexander, it's your turn. Mr. Alexander, before you go on, will you push the button on your microphone so that we can hear you a little better? Yes. One more time. Yeah.
Is it on? Did someone just turn it off?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So thank you. I strongly suggest that you write down the name Sibel Edmonds. That's Edmonds, Sibel Edmonds. And the article is Denounce It. This is the Majority USA. She's a current or former FBI, very smart, and puts out some very interesting information. So Sibel Edmonds, Denounce It. This is the Majority USA. So, and from my perspective, the only true vote in California that you all possess is called a general strike, because votes for governors, especially in California and New York, just like the presidents, they've always been, the votes are always counted before they're cast. And what's passed is passed, it could not last. Yet a people-powered command requires the fast, which is the 40-day strike that changes the entire equation. Otherwise, the public remains manipulated and oppressed. And we just keep trying, doing the same thing over and over again. But we have way more power. We're the most powerful people in the most powerful state. This guy, Becerra, I'll just say it right out front, as I've said it in other places. From my perspective, he's a bar lawyer, which is against the 13th Amendment. And he was involved in Health and Human Services, so he helped distribute very dangerous, intentionally dangerous vaccines. And he's a gangster where he has the cartels intimidating the Hispanic population to vote. He kind of reminds me of when people of color, our black friends, were all excited about Obama. And I was on the train going to the inauguration, and I was handing out flyers. And these very nice black ladies would say, oh, that better not be about my president. And I said, well, it is, but I want to ask you a question. Is it true that all the other former white presidents kept pardoning all their rich, thieving friends from prison? They said, yeah. I said, well, then watch how Obama refuses to release Mumia Abu Jamal, the most well-known black man on death row who's innocent. And guess what? He didn't release him, and Jamal is still in prison, even though 2 witnesses, and I'm one of them, proved he was innocent. So, that being said, Steyer and Sheriff Bianco probably had way more votes than we're told. And let's see, the Mormons. Jared Huffman was a Mormon. And I just wanted to share that with all the religions, who can be right if everyone's wrong, and the undisputed military warrior of all time, Alexander the Great, had something in common with the most unbelievable, unbeatable, undeniable power of Christ, the one that was called Yeshua, a.k.a. Jesus, and they were both bisexuals. And they both walked with men, they both were both ways, and they were both undisputed in their capacity as to who they were. So how does this rate with the religions that are always talking about against the gay community? I can't understand that. It's usually the patriarchal, parasitical, pedophile-affirming vampire groups that do this. So it's time for us to just work on the gardens. And
comment is from Ricardo with SEIU. And we're all looking around because we know each other in this room, and none of us are Ricardo. Okay, we'll come back to him if he reappears. Kyle Dolney, also with SEIU. Nope, okay. Well, unless anybody else would like to speak during this comment period, I'm closing it up. Okay, fabulous. We are moving on to the consent calendar. So all items on the consent calendar get approved together in one fell swoop, unless someone here would like to make a comment, ask a question,
through the chair, I would like to make a comment. Yeah. So I'd like to make just a general comment on 7G, 7I, and 7J, and I want to compliment the Director of Public Works, Mark Henderson, and his fine crew, in particular Courtney and Julian. The activity that you are generating and the things that you are doing are remarkable, and we see it here, or I see it up here, up at the dais, and I'm sure my colleagues do as well, and we're very grateful, and just my compliments, that's all. The volume of work is extraordinary.
All right. Then let's proceed. May I have a motion on the
I'll move the consent
calendar?
I'll second.
Look at you guys go. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Mayor?
Yes.
There is an ordinance on the calendar, so we had to do a roll call.
Okay, great. Well, let's do it.
Councilmember Adams?
Yes.
Councilmember Judy Che?
Aye.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Elwer?
Aye.
Mayor Sanborn?
Aye.
Motion passes by 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are on to our regular items. They're all exciting, but this is a particularly exciting one. 8A, consideration and adoption of Resolution 2026-050, authorizing and approving Director of Development Services employee agreement between the City of Rohnert Park and Natalia Fassi. This is not an item under CEQA. Let's get that staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members, and obviously members of the audience. I'm extremely pleased. I'll start off this item and then allow our interim human resources director the opportunity to present the item. But I do want to start off by saying that it gives me great pleasure to be able to have this agreement before you to appoint Natalia Fassi as our next Director of Development Services. She was selected from a very competitive recruitment process that we launched launched early this year, and it gives me great joy that she's joining the team and that she has decided to join the City of Rohnert Park. As we all know, that our Development Services Department is critical as we are handling, significant projects. We just recently approved our updated General Plan 2040, and there's just so many great work that's being done by the various divisions that we have, and she comes with us with 12 years of leadership experience in the planning field as a zoning administrator, historic preservation, and just looking at processes and doing process improvement and really looking at how can really, with her work and obviously the work of her team, just increase the level of customer service that is expected of a Development Services Department. So I'm very, very happy that she decided to join the team and that she's joining a strong, obviously, executive team here with the City of Rohnert Park. I also do want to take this opportunity and thank Mario Landeros for serving as our interim Development Services Director. So I really appreciate all of his support to the department and the team throughout, the interim time that he served as our Director of Development Services. So now I'll turn it over to our Human Resource Director, Tracy Rankin. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, City Manager. In accordance with Government Code Section 54953C, the City Council is to receive an oral summary report of the salary and compensation, including fringe benefits, paid to any local agency executive prior to taking final action. Under the terms of this agreement, the Director of Development Services is entitled to receive the following compensation and benefits: an annual base salary of $189,604.65 per year, which is Step 3 of our Salary Range 74M, a credit of a balance of 80 hours of annual leave and accrual of annual leave at a rate of 192 hours per year, participation in CalPERS retirement in the 2% at 62 program, and fringe benefits, including health insurance, disability benefits, retiree health savings contributions, and employer retiree contribution, in accordance with the Council's adopted outline of certain conditions of employment, fringe benefits, and salary for the management unit.
So that concludes our report, Mayor, and now we bring it back to the council for action. And then Ms. Fossey is here, and so after you take action, she can come up and provide a few remarks. Thank you.
Councilmember Hollingsworth would like to meet her before she takes action.
Okay, that's fine. Please, Natalia, come up. And welcome to the City of Rohnert Park.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and City Manager. My name is Natalia Fossey. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I'm really excited to be joining the City of Rohnert Park, and I'm looking forward to working closely with all of you, along with staff and the community. I'm looking forward to getting started and building on the great work already underway. Thank you for your time today.
Council, I'll let you go in any order you'd like.
Are you looking for a motion or just comments right now?
Let's make a motion.
Yeah.
I would like to move this forward, please.
I'll second.
Marvelous. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope, we're pretty excited. Welcome to the team.
Thank you so much.
Now, can we make a comment or no?
We do have a few.
Oh, of course. Natalia, if you can just.
Folks interested in making a comment. Yes,
Okay.
yes, of course.
Yes.
Okay, and then also a family photo. We take a lot of photos here, just so you know.
Great.
Council, how about it?
Well, first of all, welcome to the Rohnert Park community, a community which has just updated its general plan and added new sections on racial, social, environmental justice, and climate change. Welcome to a town that basically is meeting its RENA goals, that has its housing policies in place and has developed an enormous amount of housing over the last few years, and I'm sure you're well aware of that. I understand you hail from Rohnert Park, which is amazing, and I know you came from San Francisco, and we were recounting, all your previous experience, so I just think it's going to be a match made in heaven, and we're really looking forward to, to getting to know you and getting to know your family, and and really working collaboratively with you as we move forward with the, remaining houses that we have in these specific plans. And so just welcome.
Thank you so much.
It's an exciting time. We have our downtown coming as well, and we've got, I know I've got at least one business that's outreaching to find a new city to be in with open arms. So you'll probably get a lot of emails from us connecting you to more folks, but looking forward to it and really glad to have you on the team.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Welcome to Rohnert Park. We're excited to have you and look forward to working with you. Appreciate it.
Likewise.
Guess what? You are in the best place, best town, that have the best council, all the good stuff, the best city manager, best staff. We work well together here. And the best city attorney that keep us in line on all the legal stuff. So she's our, so welcome. Very excited. You come at the right time in our town, and also you will enjoy. Rohnert Park is beautiful. We have a lot of events if you have children. If not, it's fine. We incorporate everybody, really inclusive city. So we are really excited to have you here. So welcome to your new home, our community.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I'll just say we're very grateful that you've chosen the city of Rohnert Park, and we're very grateful to your team holding down the fort for the last, I don't know how many months it's been, but Mario knows. And we're just, it's a really fantastic team, and we're really glad you could join.
Thank you, everyone. I'm feeling the warm welcome for sure.
And you'll feel it even more when we take a quick family photo. How many years until they finally
Thank you, Sylvia.
Oh, really? It's not. I mean, this is unplugged. Is that an issue?
No, we.
All right, and now we're on to item 8B, which is conducting a public hearing to consider adopting Resolution 2026-051, adopting the Rohnert Park 2025 Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan, and authorizing filing with the state and local entities. It's also exempt from CEQA. We have our wonderful staff. Is anyone joining you up here today? Oh, yes. Great. Courtney, if you could introduce yourself and your partner in crime there, that would be wonderful.
Is my microphone on? I apologize. I'm recovering from a cold. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have with me Don Flores, who has been our project manager, is a consultant with EKI, and who has helped us build this massive update to our 2025 Urban Water Management Plan. I'm going to do a brief introduction of some highlights of the update, and then Don is going to walk us through a short presentation as well. So the Urban Water Management Plan, you'll hear us refer to as the UWMP, is a state-required long-term planning document. It's updated every 5 years. It evaluates our water supplies, forecasts future water demands, and demonstrates our ability to provide reliable water under a variety of conditions. The 2025 UWMP is primarily just an update. There's not a lot of significant changes aside from updates to the supply and demand projections. And it doesn't contain any major changes to our water supply strategy. Key updates in this 2025 UWMP include revised information on the Potter Valley project, updated Sonoma water modeling showing continued supply reliability even during consecutive dry years. It also incorporates the reduced Eel River diversions and the latest biological opinion, which was released in 2025, and along with FURO information. The plan does also identify that based on our current water loss audits that we're not projected to meet the state's urban water use objectives in 2035 and 2040. However, we anticipate addressing much of that gap with our implementation of our AMI project, along with pressure management upgrades, which will improve our data, which is where we really think a lot of our water loss is coming from. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dawn to give the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today. So really, I'm just going to be giving an overview of the two separate plans that were prepared as part of this effort, the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan and the 2025 Water Shortage Contingency Plan. So the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan is required to be updated every 5 years and submitted to the California Department of Water Resources. This plan is a prerequisite for receiving state loans and grants. Included in this plan is a description of your service area for your water service, historical water supply and demand information, supply and demand projections through the year 2050 under normal, single dry, and multiple dry year scenarios. And it also includes a description of your water conservation program and drought planning. So essentially, the City of Rohnert Park's water service area it's generally contiguous with your city limits. The city supplies both potable water that is purchased from the Sonoma County Water Agency and groundwater pumped from your underlying Santa Rosa Plain Basin. The city's non-potable water system supplies recycled water from Santa Rosa Water for non-potable uses. Okay. So, basically, long story short, the city is projected to be able to meet projected demands through 2050. What you see on this chart is the black line there is the projected demand from 2030 through 2050, overlaid with the available supplies. So you can see each of those bars shows for every 5 years the projected supplies available in a normal year. And by seeing that those bars exceed the line, that basically means that there is projected to be sufficient supply. The projected demands are based on population and employment growth from your 2040 general plan. So we wanted to make sure that all of the developments that are planned for the area were incorporated into that demand assessment. Also supplies, I know this is a normal chart, but basically it shows a similar story under single dry and multiple dry years that demand can be met with the supplies you have available. So really just to sum it up, on the Urban Water Management Plan side, key takeaways are the water supplies are projected to be sufficient to meet your long-term demands. Sonoma Water, your wholesaler, does work with all of its retail agencies to ensure reliable supplies. So while it, we are considering things that Courtney mentioned, like Potter Valley Project, FIRO, biological opinions, all of that information is included in Sonoma Water's long-term planning, which then is folded into this plan. The city is also proactively managing water demands through participation in regional conservation programs and city-sponsored conservation activities. Okay, so next is the water shortage contingency plan. Really, this is kind of its own separate plan. It's separate because DWR wants you to have the ability to potentially change it if need be in the future outside of the urban water management plan cycle. So this, while it's separate, it is attached to the urban water management plan as an appendix. This plan itself is codified in your municipal code under 13.05.030. And really, it's a framework of your planned response measures to mitigate future water supply shortages. There's 10 elements included in the plan, and these are all required in the California Water Code. It includes a description of a water supply reliability analysis. It describes the annual assessment procedures for the city's assessment of supply available for the next year, and that's something that's reported to the state. It includes the 6 standard shortage stages that are required. It also includes shortage response actions, communication protocols that occur during drought or emergency supply years. It also includes compliance and enforcement, the city's legal authority to enforce the plan, any financial consequences for having to implement the plan, monitoring and reporting, and any refinement procedures. And so, really just the key takeaways there are that, as I said before, the city's water supply is reliable. The water shortage contingency plan is intended to be a living document. It's reviewed and updated at least every urban water management plan cycle. If need be, it could possibly be updated more frequently. There are 6 escalating stages to provide a clear proportional response framework for responding to supply shortages. Yes. The multiple water sources that are available to the city does give you some built-in flexibility for responding to drought. The city does have financial reserves and surcharge tools to protect your utilities' fiscal health during the shortages. And there are very strong communication protocols in place to ensure that this public stays informed during any drought period or emergency. All right, so that's the presentation.
So staff is recommending that the City Council adopt the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan and the 2025 Water Shortage Contingency Plan. Thank you.
Thank you both for this presentation. We are going to start with council comments, but then I want to open it up for public comment because I know we have at least one here. So, council, do you have any questions on the presentation we just received? Ooh. Nice, okay. Well, then let's go ahead and open it up to public comment. I've got Mr. Steve Keith.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and staff. Thank you for this opportunity to comment on this. The report, I just tried to double check right now with tiny words and not so great coverage, but to confirm if it's still not available. But there's a link in the report to the water quality report. And that link goes directly to a 2024 report. And I don't know if we're always a year behind, and I don't know when the 2025 is going to get released, but just so you're aware of that. And maybe this is a complete coincidence, but the subject matter of the closed session kind of raised my eyebrows a bit because it has to do with groundwater. And so I immediately noticed that this was on the agenda and thought, oh, geez, I wonder what what our parts per million or whatever it is, what the water quality is. And unfortunately, we're about a year and a half, 2 years behind on the water quality report. So I was wondering if we can get some clarification on that. And I noticed that there wasn't any report on the closed session, but it doesn't take much to search what that case covers and what it's about to draw some concerns about our own drinking water here in Rohnert Park, whether or not that's warranted, just with that little bit of information. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keith. And Courtney, would you like to give an update on our upcoming update?
Yes. To address your question regarding the Consumer Confidence Report, the Water Quality Report, that is published every year on July 1st for the prior calendar year. So the 2024 is the most recent. The 2025 water year will be published on July 1st and available. Thank you.
Thank you. And, you know, well, I guess we should finish public comment before I go back to my other thought. Did anybody else have a comment on this item? We have one card here. Oh, it's Jake. Perfect. Mr. McKenzie. Do share.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, staff, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jake McKenzie. I was appointed 2 years ago to the Regional Water Quality Control Board, North Coast. So, and I'm currently the vice chair of that organization. We oversee activities involving pollution of the waters of the state of California and the North Coast region, which goes from here in Rohnert Park at its very south up to its very north in Del Norte and all the way east to Siskiyou County. And I'm just standing up here in front of you to say I was pleased to hear such an excellent report. I will look forward next week when we meet at our regional offices in Santa Rosa, just to let people know of the state of my home city's water and water supply. And if you do have any questions, or if you do have anything you wish to relay through the regional board to the State Water Quality Control Board, I'm your person. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. And Courtney, as a follow-up to the question earlier about the report, how will people receive it when it's published?
The water quality report will be mailed to all of our water customers, and it will also be available on our website.
And so if you get your water bill electronically, it'll be in the electronic
I think it will actually come as a separate postcard. Oh, yeah. Not a part of your utility bill.
Fantastic. Okay. Any other public comments before we close the public comment session? Nope. Okie dokie.
I have a question.
Yep. Back to council.
Just out of curiosity, when is the last time we had serious concerns about drought here? It's been about 4 or 5 years, maybe?
Yeah, the last one was in 2021. It was basically resolved right as I came on board to the city, but yeah, 2021.
And I know we have what we call a blend. We get some of our water that we purchase and the others well water.
Yes.
I just want to confirm for members of the community that we have access to enough water to carry us through any kind of an issue like that in Rohnert Park. If you could address that, that would be great.
We do, yes. And there are plans included in the water shortage contingency plan and also in our water supply agreement as water contractors with Sonoma Water that outline how those supplies change during any types of shortage. And what happened in the last drought in 2021, while we received a little bit less water supply from Sonoma Water, we ramped up our groundwater production here locally. So as Don mentioned, that flexibility of having multiple water sources really puts us in a unique positive position locally.
Thank you. Can I ask the department head a question too? So I always like to tell people that the person in Rohnert Park in charge of the water lives in Rohnert Park and drinks the same water we do. So if you'd like to maybe address some of those things too, every once in a while people will give a call and express some concerns, as Mr. Keith did.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and City Council members. So as Courtney was saying, we usually run about a 60-40 blend, Sonoma Water 60%, City of Rohnert Park groundwater 40%. As Courtney stated, we do adjust this In the winter, we'll rest our wells. We'll use more Sonoma water. We can do maintenance. In times of drought, we supply 80 to 90% of our own water per request by request of Sonoma Water. And also, when you look at the Consumer Confidence Report, there's requirements on there that we have to state contaminants for several years, such as radionuclides. We have to report those, 3 to 6 years depending. So you'll see contaminants on there that we sampled in 2022. So every community water system has different sampling requirements, and it's all public information. If you just Google, State of California water system monitoring schedule, you'll see the city of Rohnert Park, and our water system number is 4910014. So it's all public information. So yeah, that's what we usually try and maintain that blend, like I said, and that's adjusted as needed. So during the drought, we're trying to allow water to flow to other cities that don't have the internal capacity that we have.
Council, any other questions or comments here? No.
If not, I'd like to make a motion. Do we need to accept the report?
Yes. Receive and approve.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion will be to adopt the resolution 2026-051.
Yes.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, ladies, for the presentation. And thank you, residents, for conserving water.
Oh, here comes trouble.
Okay. Next, we are on to item 8C. We're holding a community engagement meeting, public hearing, to receive and approve the Department of Public Safety's annual report regarding military use, or military equipment use for last year, 2025, and to consider and approve the purchase of additional equipment and introduce by title only and waive the first hearing of ordinance number 995, adopting military equipment use policy. Chief, welcome back.
Thank you. Welcome, Mayor, and thank you for having me tonight, Council. Back for that annual 481 military equipment report. We've came to us in, I think, 2022. So, yeah, just wanted to bring you up to date on our military equipment in our agency. So as you know, one of the commitments we have to our community is to provide a safe community, make sure people who live, work, and travel through our city are safe. We do that by training and equipping our agencies, our officers, with the right equipment. And, we do that so that our community can remain safe and we don't become a community who people want to come in and cause trouble in. We do that by using our equipment and our training in the most efficient way, and by protecting the individuals who live and work here. So AB 4081 came in 2022, and what it said was you need to go out and let your councils and your community know what kind of equipment you're using and that you possess, and also how many times you use that during a year and what you're using it for. So it's one of those transparency things that we've embraced, and I'm very proud to always come in front of you to let you know how we're doing. So currently in our inventory of military equipment, we have no tanks or helicopters. However, we do have our 40-millimeter launchers. As you recall, last year we brought one of those in to share with you so that you could see what it is. It's a launcher that launches a sponge that travels about 131 feet. The reason we have those is so that we don't have to use lethal force when we come across situations that we can maybe de-escalate in a different way. Of course, our intention is always to de-escalate verbally, use our positioning and our body language to bring stuff down, but sometimes we can't. And so we're forced to use other techniques. And I'm proud to say that, we've embraced the less lethal is what we call it. And so currently we have 15 40-millimeter single-shot launchers in our inventory. And we have we're allowed to have up to 400 of the sponge rounds. And if you recall, last year I did bring one of the sponge rounds so you could see it. These are meant to just incapacitate somebody so that we can get up and handle our business, as opposed to having to use something that puts holes in people. We don't want to do that if we don't have to. As I said, you saw the sponges and the launchers. Some of our uses, you know, we haven't had to bring them out in crowd control. These are usually when we get somebody who is at a standoff with us. They have the potential to cause injury to someone around them or our officers, but they haven't gotten that vicinity, and we're able to use that distance to bring it to a close. As I said earlier, these launchers will send that projectile about 131 feet, which is about the outside where they're protected. We have not used them that far. We've usually within about 40 feet, because we want to make sure that if we're going to use them, they're going to do the job. We don't want to be missing people and hitting people downrange. It requires training. The lifespan of the actual launcher is 25 years. The lifespan of the sponge is 5. And if you've got any kind of spongy material at home, you know that they start disintegrating after a few years. So after 5 years, we need to get rid of those and buy new ones. But as I said, currently we're authorized to have about 400 in our inventory. The other one we have that we report on every year is our less lethal shotgun. About 4 years ago, we removed, well, we didn't remove the shotguns from our cars, but what we did was we took all ammo away and we only carried less lethal beanbags. So there was no 12 gauge ammunition in our cars. We had 86 less lethal shotguns and about 850 rounds of the beanbags. We currently we're going to maintain that right now, only because we're coming up with this system to get rid of these shotguns. We are actually going to remove the shotguns we've already removed them from our cars. We're not going to be using them anymore. And the reason for that is, in some of the studies we've seen and some of the recent incidents, even though these less lethal shotguns shoot a beanbag, there have been incidents where they have actually penetrated a body. And we feel that we don't want to carry something in our cars that is between less lethal and lethal. We want less lethal. So we're actually removing those shotguns. But because we still have them in our possession, we are reporting out to you that they are here, but they're in our armory. They are not in our cars any longer. So we will be coming up with a plan to remove those from actually the agency and not have them anymore. That will come back to you next year. And again, we talked about the training. Officers are required to get trained on these, but they're not being trained because they're not in use. We did not use our less lethals last year as far as firing them, one time. Did we display them? Yes. Are they a good means of de-escalation when they come out? Absolutely. But I am proud to say that with good officer interactions, good de-escalation techniques, we did not have to fire a round from our less lethals. That does not mean we don't need them. That just means we are using them in the best way we can. Again, no usage. We had no complaints regarding our less lethal, no use of force issues, and no violations of our policy or 481. So what we come to you today for, again, also is to let you know that when we bring our ordinance forward, what we will be looking for is City Council approval to increase our 40 millimeter launchers to 30. We have no intention of doing that today. It's not in the budget currently. However, right now we are at 15. We are authorized 15. We want to be able to expand to 30 so that we can put them in more cars when they're out on the street. These things get taken out for maintenance, they break, and so we want to move it up so we always have them available. We want to do that in increments. As we get funding, we'll come back, we'll be able to, but I cannot increase it if it's not in the ordinance. So we're just asking that you allow us to increase it to 30 so that as I can build, we can build up to 30. We're also asking to add 75 OC powder impact rounds. These are the sponges that you saw. except they are loaded with an OC powder. You ask me why that's important? Well, there are times when we have people who are barricaded in location, and shooting a sponge at the wall is not going to do anything. It's going to bounce off the wall. These would allow us to hit an area in the area of the person, which would expel OC, which then could bring the person out and bring the situation to a close. So this is a newer tool. It allows us not to have to send an officer in or a dog in. It allows us to maybe bring that person out to where we can deal with them without having to use other means. And then, of course, we are asking to add the 3 unmanned aerial systems, AKA drones, to this, to our 481. The drone program was approved in the budget earlier this year. We're ready to move forward with that. We are going to be bringing our drone in through our fire department, fire side, because we want to be able to look at vegetation management throughout our city. We want to be able to do 360s on a fire within our city. We want to be able to do mapping and reconstruction on our fires. So we're excited about that. Most fire agencies would not have to bring this forward for 481, but because we're public safety, we are moving out in front of this and bringing it forward, because I will be honest with you, there will be times where we will probably use this on a police side. If I have a person with dementia who's walked away, if I have a child who is lost, if I have a person who is barricaded and it's a dangerous situation, but our main use will be on the fire side. We're excited about bringing that in and seeing how we can increase safety to our firefighters when they're going in and out of buildings. So this has been well received from the public at some of our chats and many of the community members I've talked to. We are also going to be setting up neighborhood meetings, getting out in the community, showing what it does, letting the community ask questions, because this is probably from the time we get this approved, which hopefully we'll bring it to you next council meeting. It's still a 3 to 4 month process to get those in our possession. So we will be using that time to educate the public and let them know about this really good program. And that is just a picture. Just a picture for you. Our mayor said she likes pictures, so I thought I'd throw one in at the end. I can't do the Cindy PowerPoint thing. I don't do it, but all right, and that's my presentation.
Pictures are nice. I'm looking forward to the demo. Okay, so let's start with our council on questions, and then let's go to our public comment.
So thank you, Chief, for the presentation. Just getting back to the launchers for just a moment, you mentioned a maximum distance of 131 feet. What would be the minimum distance that you would not use this item? And how does that change the impact to a person's body?
Well, it's a kinetic device, so the closer you are to the exit of the projectile, the quicker it's going to be moving. There comes a time where you have to go hands-on because people, so, these things have been effective for us probably from 35 to 50 feet, right? People start closing that gap and we have to move to different things. One, it's very difficult to hit a moving target, right? So, we would probably go hands-on. But, ours have, the uses we've had that I brought in front of council have been, if you recall, the person on the porch, kind of a static. We were at the the sidewalk, they were at the porch 35, 40 feet away, a lot of talking. At one point when they made one, they started moving towards us in a, slow maintenance, we were able to do it. So, from here to that wall is probably where we're looking. 131 foot, that's a third of a football field. I don't want to think I can be that effective. So, and at that range, there's not a real danger to you. So, we weigh that in, where's the danger come to you or others? So it's situational, but yeah, probably from 35 to 50 feet is probably where these are most effective.
Okay. And then let's talk about these drones just for a little bit here.
The what?
The drones. Yeah. So how many do we currently have again?
We have 0.
We have no drones. I thought you did have a drone that you were using, like on 4th of July and this kind of thing?
No, we have had situations where we've called the county in or Santa Rosa to bring their drone.
All right.
We have people who fly their drones on 4th of July.
Yeah, no, I understand that part.
Not as an agent of the Public Safety Department, but we currently have 0 drones.
So how often in the last year, the last couple of years, have we asked the county for assistance with regards to drones, and they've been used here in Rohnert Park?
On the police side, probably 4, maybe 3.
And what about on the fire side?
We've not used it because no one else has a drone that they use for fire. So we're going to be the guinea pig on that one.
Right, and just kind of recount to me on the public safety, not the public safety side, on the police side, all the potential uses again for these drones. So if you're in pursuit of somebody who is fleeing on foot or what have you, would you employ the drone to try to track them down?
You know, those things happen. We have not used a drone in a vehicle or for foot pursuit. They happen so quickly.
Okay.
That situation may be if there's a foot pursuit or a vehicle pursuit, the person gets out, they're armed, and they go into a shed in the backyard, or they barricade themselves in. So it'd be a situation where I'm absolutely not going to send an officer in to see what's going on. Mm-hmm. Those are the situations where we have called Santa Rosa, the county. I can think of the individual, the female out behind Food for Less, who had the gun in the creek. We couldn't get to her. Santa Rosa flew the drone over, at least we could see and come up with a plan. You know, the uses I see for the drone on the police side are when we get our missing kids, you know, our 4-year-old, 5-year-old walk away. Because, you know, grid searches are good, but they take hours and hours. And you get somebody, you know, who's lost again cold, it's hard. Or if you get that elderly individual who suffers from dementia or Alzheimer's, who walks away, you know, every hour counts with medication and weather. So that's really where I see the use, is when we're trying to find somebody to prevent, you know, a bad ending.
Mm-hmm. And my final question, as an agency, have we defined the protocol as to who uses these drones, or who can use the drones, or who has access to the drones? How are they deployed? Is that you? Is that a lieutenant? Is that what happens there?
Absolutely. We have our policy in place. We've provided training to the upcoming instructors. We've selected those instructors, or those pilots. They will have to go through a training program in order to fly that drone. Our drones are trunk located, so we are not doing a drone as first responder. Drone as first responder is when a drone, you have drones in the city at different locations. When a dispatch call comes out, they are automatically dispatched to a location. That's not the drone program we're looking for. Ours are basically in a case. They're carried in the back of the trunk of a pilot, and that person would go to that situation and they would put the drone up from there. So let's say we've got a structure fire over in C-section. We are going to work, the first person that has that drone, there's going to be one of them out there, will get there and they will put that drone up and they will start doing the 360 of the building, so that they can start letting people know where we've got smoke, where we've got fire, where we've got people in the area, distance between apartments. So providing all that information as people are getting there. But there'll be one trunk drone, and then, so I say 3 drones. There's one drone that is kind of for an outside, and then there's one that can go inside and look for victims or people. That's a smaller drone, and it's also in a trunk. So these are going to be very, very specific on who flies them and when they get flown. And we have a very specific policy that we've developed for that. We followed Lexipol and some of the best practices there are for drones.
Thank you, Mayor.
So you said there, well, let me go backwards. The items that you said would be in the armory, is there any sort of money back for we purchased them, now we're not using them? How are we generating some revenue here? Can we?
So these shotguns are, the shotguns that we have are they're end of life. I mean, they last 25 years, right? So everybody's kind of moving away from shotguns. They went to less lethal. Really nowhere to sell these. And no one really wants them. They're also sawed off, so they're short-barreled shotguns, so they can't be used for much other than police activity. What we want to make sure is that we dispose of them properly. So we want to work through DOJ to make sure that nothing ever falls in the wrong hands. So these are in the armory. They're not coming out. And believe me, if I could figure out a way to barter something, but they're just not. There's not a lot of value to them. Okay. So we just want to make sure that we safely dispose of them.
And then you said there's no money in the budget right now. Where do we foresee getting money in the budget once you want to build up?
So, as we move through the years, sometimes we find that, we were going to spend, in the armory budget, we budgeted, I'm just throwing a number, we budgeted $50,000 out there for ammo. And as we move toward the end of the year, we find out that, hey, we only spent 40. Well, that would give me the opportunity to maybe buy, talk to Marcella, ask her if I can take that money and buy 3 more launchers, because it's within the 30 now. So that's where I say we're not intending on expanding it right now, but as I find money, if a grant came for less lethal or de-escalation, I just want to make sure that I have the room when I have the means. So that's why we're bringing it to you.
And then the drones, who's the manufacturer and who's kind of supports the software, hardware? So
we are buying these through Axon. And Axon does not make the drone. Skydio makes the drone. And so they've got a partnership. And so we've had both Axon and Skydio out to give us the presentations and fly the drone. But it is backed by Axon and supported by Axon.
And are these those same drones that I saw you guys were out by the library, was it last year, 2 years ago? And it was kind of tethered, so we got to see the taser.
Yeah, they're not, because they're not a tethered drone now. We've moved away from it because a tethered drone was really limiting, but it's the same technology. Our intention, and Axon and Skydio have said that they would love to come out and put on a demonstration for the community, for anybody who wants to see it in the technology. And just little things like when the drone is flying, the cameras are pointing forward. They're not pointing down. So they've really tried to cut people's concerns about that, but they want to come out and do it big anytime they want. So our plan over the next 3 to 4 months, while we're waiting to get them, is to have them come out and really open it up to the community so they can see. But it would be the same type of demonstration. It's just not the one on a tether.
Okay. And you mentioned the drones would be through Measure H funds. Is there any sort of financial responsibility, or are we putting ourselves in a situation, this might be for Madam City Attorney or Madam City Manager, that when we are not using it for fires, could we get dinged at all for how Measure H is written?
So during our presentations, because we're public safety, the Measure H understands that because we're public safety, we're police and fire, that when we buy something through fire, because more than likely it will be a police officer who is flying that drone during a fire, because the firefighters are going to be fighting a fire. So at this point, we've been very transparent with Measure H, and they understand that we're buying it. Like I said, we're buying this drone for fire. We want to see how it works for vegetation management. We want to see how it works for construction. But I've made it very clear to everybody I've talked to that if I've got a missing child or I've got a dementia patient that walked away, and I can put that drone up in the air and find them, because technically that's going to be a medical issue if we don't do that. And so my thing is I believe, based on all the conversations we've had, that we are fine with the way we're doing this.
So we shouldn't be concerned that someone from Measure 8 come back or any sort of oversight and says, this Measure H is specifically for fire, and you used it elsewhere.
So just as a reminder, I know the chief, when he made the presentation, he indicated this. So we did include it in the budget. In fact, this current budget that we're in, 25-26. And I can probably call up our director of finance. We have reported this to the oversight committee. They are fully aware that, as the chief mentioned, that we are purchasing a drone program to operate it to support our fire side. And I know Ms. Hose is coming up, but because we have to report on our, expenditures for Measure H, so they are fully aware that we are, funding a drone program. So, Ms. Holtz, please.
Do we have that in writing?
They take action. It's a committee that meets and it's formal, and I'm sure they take minutes. So, I mean, Ms. Holtz, I don't know if you want to explain that process. Thank you.
Yes, they do take minutes. It's a formal meeting.
Perfect.
And so I actually attended the oversight board and I presented the reports. There weren't a lot of other jurisdictions there, but I was there. And I took the opportunity to talk to several of the board members and had the furthering conversation about us being public safety and how we are able to have to train additional people that are on the police side currently because those people might be in fire in the next couple of weeks. And so we are planning to use the training dollars to train on both sides of the house because they do move back and forth and we are going to need that. So we will explain that to them, and if they have any questions, then we would be able to address it at that time.
Thank you. As long as it's on record that they're fine with it and we're not at risk of them coming back and saying something, I'm good with it. So, thank you.
Thank you. First of all, are these questions? All right, then I'll go to second of all. Let's see, how do I make this into a question?
Or you could wait a minute. Yeah. You just need to get
How many officers will go to training school for using these drones?
How many officers are we going to train for this? There's a cadre of 5 at this point.
5? Thank you. Wait to comments.
Way to pivot. Questions, Vice Mayor?
No, Councilmember Rodriguez kind of asked quite a bit of what I had.
Yeah, I got most of mine covered too. Chief, my only other question that didn't get covered yet was with the need or desire to go from 15 to 30 launchers. What's the number you need, like in active, not just rotation, but like out in the cars or with the officers? What's your total count on any given day?
So if on the weekends, there are times when we have a sergeant and 4 during day shift. Then we have our early ends, which are 2. Then we have a swing shift who comes in at 4. So there's an overlap there of an hour. That's a sergeant and another 4. And then we have our early end. Then we have graveyards who comes in at 9, which is going to be a supervisor and 4, supervisor and 4 and 5 on a weekend. So at any time we can have, if everybody's there, especially on a weekend, I could have it at one point in the day, I could have 11 to 12 officers on, and then some are going to go off. But that's how many cars we could have at one time during, say, over the shift, swing shift, graveyard, early in, late covers. So we could have 11 to 12 cars out there. And I have 15 launchers right now, and they've got to be maintained. When an officer takes his car home, if it's in the car, that's one that doesn't go back in the armory. So that's the only, we're managing it right now. I just know we could manage it easier and better and have more access out on the street, just because of how quickly something can turn, very dynamic. The less I have to wait for someone to show up on scene with a launcher, the better shape we are. So the more I can have in a car, the safer we're going to be out there with our community.
Thank you for that. And then you mentioned the one show of force in your update. That'll appear in the show of force report that you do every year, yeah?
Yeah, I think what I indicated was we had no uses of the 40. That doesn't mean that we did not exhibit the 40. I don't know exactly how many, but they were in that report I did earlier.
Yeah, okay, so it was already covered in the one you already did. Perfect.
So we did exhibit it a few times. We just didn't have to use it because of good verbal judo.
Yeah, that was the best blank slide in the presentation. Okay, so now we're going to public comment. We've got, oh, thank you.
We're going to open the public hearing and.
Oh, that's right, because
for the community meeting, and we're going to allow the public to ask questions. Yes. And then we're going to close the public hearing, and then the council's going to come back and make a determination as to whether or not the council wants to purchase this new equipment. And if so, then it would be an introduction and waiving the first reading of the ordinance.
Okay, and so where does a public comment fit into this? Does that fall into the hearing?
This is the public hearing
okay,
right
great.
now.
So it's just a
clarifying question, Madam City Attorney. So are we taking this in 2 steps, or can we approve the annual report and authorize or not authorize?
You will do all that after we close the public hearing.
Yeah, but is it 2 separate motions, or are we combining them?
There will be, you can combine them.
Okay, thank you.
In terms of, but the ordinance would need to be adopted separately, because that requires a roll call vote, but everything else can be done by motion.
Then let's go ahead and officially open the public hearing and hear from our first person of the public, Mr. Steve Keith.
Good evening again, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and staff. Chief, actually a number of the questions I had have been answered already. I did have a couple left over. You alluded to it a little bit regarding, because I saw the numbers 0 uses, but then you wanting to double the inventory. But you brought up a good point, that part of any action that's taken without lethal force is, in effect, less lethal. So just simply just showing it. I mean, I remember going into flats and just racking around, and then all of a sudden they're coming out with their hands up. And so it was when you say deployed, it sounds like you're talking about sending a round down range versus pulling it out and showing it. We got this, we'll use it. So I think that's really good information to share, to say, yeah, we bring this out and it de-escalates things. They don't want to engage with it. The matter of the drones is a matter of concern. Aside from all of the benefits on the fire and police side, my first instinct was to ask or to wonder and want to ask, who would potentially be able to gain access to the footage that these retain, the video and images. I believe the report mentions that, they're capable of doing this. In your report, you mentioned the fire would use it with regards to weed abatement. And then you also mentioned construction. So then that tells me that then code enforcement would have access, at least to the footage, perhaps, I don't know, but not as operators, but they would have access to the footage. You also mentioned that the camera, mentioned during a demo that they were showing how the camera faced forward and not down, and that was to alleviate some fears of the public. And if that's the case, how would they be used for weed abatement and construction if they can't hover over and look down? The obvious concern there with regards to breaking that barrier of a property barrier of a fence. How did you get to the point where there's a complaint about weed abatement and it's in the backyard? And I think it'd be helpful to have that process explained by either you or by code enforcement so we better understand how the footage would be used in those cases. Thanks.
Would you like me to respond or no?
Well, let's see if there's anyone else from the public that has any questions during the hearing, comments. Back to you, Chief.
Okay.
I will officially close that public comment period. Public hearing.
Steve, thanks for your questions and your comments. So first of all, I'll talk about, you talked about construction, and I believe I used the word reconstructing. When there's a fire, we can use the drone for reconstruction of that, if it's a crime scene or if it's a fire, to figure out what happened. So it wouldn't be used for construction. It would be used to reconstruct the scene. Hope that answers that question. Access, for one thing, Axon has a very, very robust transparency page that will provide anybody who wants to go onto that page, which will be on our page, time of use, reason for use, duration of use. As far as video, if someone wants video, they would still have to go through the PRA process of if they want it, or however would legally obtain it. Depends on what video it is. But we would certainly abide by any laws pertaining to any video that's on there. And then I believe on the camera that I said that the camera, to alleviate concerns about flyovers, the camera is facing forward when it's flying. And then once it hovers, then once we're in the area where we need to be, the camera is down. So that way people don't think we're just flying, looking into backyards all the time. So, and then I think the last one I didn't write down, but was veg. The term you used was not the term I used. I'm talking about vegetation management in our open field areas, in our surrounding field areas that my fire marshal has to deal with to make sure that fields are mowed. This is the vegetation management portion of it, not as much the weed abatement. The vegetation management will help us see where we need to contact field owners, landowners. This is not at this point to be used to look into backyards to see if there's weed abatement. That's still going to be done the old-fashioned way. So I hope I've answered all your questions on it.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, so if I recall correctly, we're closing the public hearing, true? Yeah. With the gavel, I am closing public hearing, and so we will take this in two parts unless.
You have comments?
Oh yeah, that's right. We did have council opportunity for comments. Continue.
Am I the only one with comments?
Probably.
I'll just take my time then. Chief, thank you very much for that excellent report. And while I'm at it, thank you to your team. I know the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of activity that has been public, and I think it's all been handled in a way that makes us as council members, I'll speak for my colleagues, very proud to have you leading our team. So thank you. I also would like to say thank you for realizing that those shotguns or whatever you called them beforehand are between less lethal and lethal, and that you've had the foresight to pull them back. We didn't know that. And without your transparency, we still wouldn't know it. So thank you for that as well. I have two sons who are drone aficionados, and between them they have 3 or 4 drones. So I've had the little goggles on, and they've got to get licensed in order to fly them. I trust our police officers. I think we all do. They have shown over time that they can be trusted. The fact that you've had 0 uses in 2025 or whenever your period of time was, they're not just pulling these things out and firing them off just for the fun of it. And so I think myself, I'm inclined to keep that trust going forward and giving them the opportunity to use this. I think we'll find that the benefits outweigh the risks, and if we come back and find out that there's some issues that we need to address, then we will. I'm inclined to vote to give you the things that you've requested here in this particular hearing, and I appreciate all the work that our officers are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
With no other council comments?
Well, I just have a really quick comment. My only concern is about the use of the drone just on people, and that has been one of the most terrifying things for me when it comes also for the data and stuff. I'm just a little bit concerned based on how things have been going, not necessarily in Rohnert Park, but the country, how data have been, misused. I'm nervous a little bit about that, but I just wanted to put it out there.
Yes, I thought you had something you'd like to say. Okay, so in two parts, we shall take this.
I think
You do have something you want to say. Okay. Yes. Oh, go ahead, Chief.
Oh, no, I appreciate Councilman Elward's, Vice President Mayor Elward's comments. We've had a lot of discussions, and I hope over the past 7.5 years, I've proved to you that, you know, you can trust us, and we never misuse this. But I also believe that if I have the opportunity to use a tool and not put someone's life in danger, I think that's my obligation. So, you know, I give you my word that we will use this in the most professional way and only when necessary in this city.
One quick question on the drones. Is there any other manufacturer or company that's been looked at to use other than the one presented today?
There are a lot of drone companies out there, and now that you say that, I hope I didn't misspoke, but I'm 90% sure it's Skydio. We've been dealing with Axon, but I think there's a Skydio. The reason we went with Skydio is because they're partnered with Axon, and we have trust in Axon. We use all of our Axon products. This drone will feed into our evidence.com system. And to this point, Axon has not given me any reason to doubt their credibility. Now, are there other drone companies out there? There are other drone companies out there.
Okay, thank you.
I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the Department of Public Safety Annual Report regarding military equipment use for the year of 2025.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Do we need a roll call vote for this, clerk? No, we don't need a roll call vote. Yay. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
And do you want me to keep it going? For the second
We'll let
part?
the clerk.
Now there's deliberation on whether or not the council wants to purchase.
Right.
You should turn on your microphone.
Oh, then let me clarify for the record. Okay, can you say the first one again? I'm sorry.
That was
This is a problem.
receiving the report.
Yes,
Are you
then
okay
it's a aye.
receiving the report?
Yes, I'm okay receiving the report.
Okay. So then you get a 5-0
And so
on
now
one.
the council's going to deliberate on whether or not they want to actually purchase the equipment that the chief just set forth in his presentation.
But to clarify, City Attorney, it's not purchasing it, it's authorizing future purchase of it for some of those
Well,
things.
yes, but in order to purchase it, you need to adopt an ordinance. And so in order to adopt the ordinance, you are giving them authority to purchase. He's telling you separate and apart from that, by the way, I'm not going to be purchasing these.
Because there's no money.
Right. But you have now given him the authority to do that.
Okay, so it's a when the time comes. Okay, so we're looking
So I'd
for
like to make a
for that.
motion. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the purchase of additional equipment and introduce by title only and waive the first hearing of ordinance number 995, adopting a military equipment use policy.
Okay, and so all those,
Is there a second?
There's a second.
yeah, so all those in favor of this
This is
portion,
a roll call.
okay,
He combined them.
great. So
Now we need a roll call.
roll call vote.
Unless there are comments, if any council member can make a comment before the vote is taken.
Do you have any additional comments since our last comment period? Nope, okay. Roll call vote on this one. City Clerk?
Councilmember Adams?
Yes.
Councilmember Yudichie?
Aye.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
No.
Vice Mayor Elwer?
Yes.
Mayor Sanborn?
Yes.
The motion passes by a 410. Councilmember Rodriguez dissenting.
Thank you. Okay. We are on to the next item, 8D. Thank you, Chief. Consideration and adoption of Resolution 2026-052, adopting the City of Rohnert Park operating budget for fiscal year 26-27, and the adoption of 2026-053, adopting the 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal years 26 and 27 through 2031, and CIP projects as included in the city budget for fiscal year 2026. This is not a project under CEQA.
Thank you. Good afternoon, or good evening, Mayor and council members. This is the culmination of, obviously, as you know, the budget workshops that we had before the City Council back in April, and also working, again, very closely with our various city departments. The city's budget is one of the most important policy documents that you will adopt, and as you have seen in the past couple months, it's a pretty involved process, and obviously it's made it extremely difficult when resources are diminished, and so I really commend our finance team and all of our city departments for working together in a very collaborative mode to be able to bring before you a balanced budget that is balanced because we're using one-time resources. And as we have shared with you, that moving forward, that really is problematic for the city in order to be able to consider offering the services that it does to the community. But we'll go ahead and get started. Just as a reminder for the council, we are monitoring very closely a lot of the different economic uncertainties that we are seeing and that we're facing, revenue shortfalls, and as we shared during this budget process going into the new fiscal year, is our revenue sources, money that the city gets, is basically, just flat. And so we don't anticipate seeing much of an increase. Also, we continue monitoring, which I'm sure you get those various bill reports from the California League of Cities. There is a variety, a number of bills that are coming out that are impacting local communities, and so we monitor those closely, as we know that in many cases it does require more work of the city. So those unfunded mandates, you recently adopted a policy related to SB 707, which we know it has its benefits, but it also comes with additional costs for the city. Personnel costs continue increasing, retaining employees and recruiting good caliber employees obviously is a challenge for us when our salaries are, behind market. And then we have, of course, continued ongoing governmental operational costs, infrastructure that we have to invest in, and of course, any kind of unexpected costs. So we monitor all this very, very closely throughout the year. Just as a reminder, and you'll see, especially as the budget is presented, in particular our capital improvement plan, is that we are targeting the council's broad goals: long-term financial sustainability, community quality of life, planning and infrastructure, and organization well-being. We also are targeting your adopted priorities for fiscal year 26-27, continuing to make progress on the downtown, investing in infrastructure and beautification, communication, community engagement. As you know, we've intensified our community engagement by doing various community chats, which have actually been extremely productive for us, and we've gotten some very valuable information from members of our community. We also continue targeting our organization well-being and, of course, focusing on our workforce retention. In terms of infrastructure, you obviously are well aware of this. We have and are trying to address our deferred maintenance needs in terms of facility conditions. Back in 2022, it was 40 million. As we delay those investments, they cost more, but right now we're kind of using that estimate. Of course, the pavement management assessment that was done, we have about 21 million in deferred maintenance in terms of our payment system in the city. Parks and Recreation, your recently adopted Parks and Recreation Master Plan, about 98 million to be able to address our deferred maintenance needs in that area. And of course, we recently completed the tree maintenance study. And about, if we had to replace all the 16,000 trees that we have on just public right of way, we would have to invest about, $61 million. And then of course, the investment in the various traffic impacts that we need to complete in support of the casino expansion, about 15 million. So overall, more than $235 million to address deferred maintenance needs. This just gives you an idea, and this is the positions that we have funded in the budget, over 200 positions that we have funded in the city's 26-27 budget. We, as you know, have 18 frozen positions. This is citywide, and we also are not funding because we had to lay off 5 positions from various city departments, but we are funding about a little over 200 full-time positions, and also including, of course, part-time employment, particularly in the community services department. Just as a reminder, we started off in fiscal year 25-26 with a $10 million general fund deficit, and of course, going into 26-27, we face the same $10 million deficit. Our spending levels are just not sustainable, and obviously, when we had our April budget workshops, we gave you the various, options in terms of, the full submittal of the departments for their various departments' needs, and then we gave you the city manager reduction, which still represented a deficit of about a little over $6 million. We continue relying on the money that we get from the tribe to assist us with our city operations. But of course, we know that, that's just not sustainable for us to continue operating the city. And I really commend our departments. We were able to reduce budgets by approximately $5 million. So this is kind of, a reminder of, where we're ending this fiscal year, but also really reflective of how we're entering the new fiscal year for the city. And then here you just have a graph showing you how, and you can start seeing how we are spending more than our revenue sources. And in this case, it's both a revenue and expenditure situation that the city's facing. And we are no different than other communities, including here in our region. And of course, statewide, we're all kind of facing this, challenge and situation. And we know it's very difficult. The state is going through it, the county's going through it. And so we're all really just facing some very challenging times that ultimately do impact our community and our staff as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to our finance director, Betsy Host, so she can continue with the budget presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Sam, board members of the council. As City Manager Pieja told you, I am going to continue the presentation. So we're going to take a look at the 26-27 general fund overview. And so, again, here's your reminder that we started when the budget was originally submitted by the departments with a $10 million deficit, and the city manager, in working with the departments, was able to bring that down to $6.7 million, and that generated savings of approximately $3.3 million. And also, as part of that presentation, we proposed solutions for the deficit. And what we proposed was using casino supplemental funds to the tune of about $5.2 million. And then we were going to defer the transfer of some of the refuse franchise fees to the CIP fund. So we were going to hold back on our ability to make repairs to the roads for a 1-year time frame. So, as you know, budgets are work in progress, and so after the completion of the study session, little things pop up, and here we are going to be walking you through the changes for the general fund post-study session. So there were a couple of items on the additional needs list from the Public Safety Department that were not addressed in the original presentation, and so they are asking for $21,700 for some software to allow access to digital evidence, and they're also asking for $17,100 for an investigation tool for facial image recognition, and both of these were approved by the city manager post-study session. And then we entered that deferral of the road pavement transfer out of the $1.5 million, and that reduced overall expenditures by approximately $1.4 million, excuse me. Then we had a reduction in donation from the Rohnert Park Foundation to Public Works, and this was for some street signs, and I will also be speaking about this when we go to the foundation budget presentation, but basically, based on a recommendation from Director Henderson, we are able to reduce the amount of dollars that they need for some signage by about $50,000. And so we have reduced it on the general fund side, and it will be reduced on the Rohnert Park Foundation side as well. And then we're adding in that additional transfer from casino supplemental funds of $5.3 million. It's a little bit higher than the $5.2 million that I told you about because of all the little minor changes that occurred during the final reconciliation of the budget. So that created an increase in revenue, about $5.2 million. And the net impact to the general fund was an overall benefit of about $6.7 million between reducing the expenditures and increasing the revenue appropriations. So now we're going to go into a reminder of our general fund revenues. So here's the pie chart that shows us the makeup of the total general fund revenues, about $57.8 million. Total revenue from taxes is 64.1%. So as you can see, taxes is the best generator of revenues for the city. This is down from the study session amount of 70.5%, and that's because when we bring in the transfers for the casino, it skews the chart a little bit. It changes the numbers. So instead of the taxes being 70% of the total revenues, they're now down to about 64.1%. And just to remind you, taxes includes property taxes, sales tax, the transient occupancy tax, and the franchise fees. So here we have a chart that is basically laying out all of our revenues, the amount budgeted in 25-26, the amount proposed for 26-27, the dollar change, and the percentage change. So property taxes for fiscal year 26-27, we are anticipating about $13.8 million, and this is a $1 million increase, or about 7.9% over last year. And this is increasing because our projections for this year are a little bit better than they were for the budget, and so we went ahead and increased the budget for next year by about $890,000, bringing our total, we increased the 25-26 estimate by about $890,000, bringing us to a total of about $13.6 million. And so we use that information to increase the property tax amount for next year. In sales tax, we are projecting sales tax revenue will increase by approximately $700,000, or 4.5% in fiscal year 26-27. And this increase is primarily attributable to an anticipated $550,000 increase in the general sales tax revenues, a $100,000 increase in Measure A sales tax revenues, and a $20,000 increase in Proposition 172 public safety augmentation revenues, which are a form of sales tax. The proposed fiscal year 26-27 sales tax budget continues to reflect a conservative forecasting approach and is based on projections provided by the city sales tax consultant and actual collections. So transient occupancy tax, they continue to remain volatile. Some of our hotels are still facing challenges, which is reflected in our collections. However, with enhanced enforcement of regulation and a change in ownership at 2 of the hotels, we are beginning to see an uptick in revenue. We are projecting a $600,000 or 17.3% increase in TOT revenue for fiscal year 26-27. Franchise fee revenues remain pretty steady. We are projecting a $100,000 increase in franchise fee revenues, and these include Recology, Pacific Gas and Electric, and broadband and cable companies. Intergovernmental revenue has a decrease of approximately $200,000, and this is mainly due to a loss of a $160,000 grant from the county for the Rohnert Park People Services. We do believe that we are going to be able to do a contract extension with them, and we may be able to roll over about $25,000 from 25-26 into 26-27, but that is all still pending finalization. Interest and rents are up approximately $400,000 or 23.5% due to schedules, cost of living increases on leases, and investment income both performing well. So we are expecting about $350,000 increase in rents and about $49,000 increase in investment income. Charges for services have decreased by about $1.8 million or 47.6%. This decline is mainly attributed to projecting a higher number of developments associated permits that materialized in fiscal year 25-26. Therefore, we have lowered the projection also for fiscal year 26-27. So this is made up of about a $500,000 reduction in developer deposits, $59,000 in building inspection fees, a $452,000 reduction in development services cost recovery labor for development projects, and a $350,000 decrease in public works cost recovery labor for development projects. So for our community service fees, we are expecting an overall increase of about $42,000 across the various community services programs. The cost allocation plan for fiscal year 26-27, the $200,000 increase is specifically related to the annual true-up process of the cost allocation plan, which adjusts for revenue that was not collected in fiscal year 23-24. This true-up ensures that revenue allocated from previous fiscal years is accurately accounted for and corrected in the next fiscal year. And this number can go up or down depending on how we projected the cost allocation plans, because we do an estimate, and then how the actual dollars were spent. And we come in and true that to make sure that we are not overcharging. We don't have a lot of change in license and permits and fines and forfeitures, so I won't go into the details on that one. Donations increased by about $519,000, and this kind of has a laundry list of ups and downs. So the city is requesting $535,000 from the landfill reserve held by the county for stormwater, creek cleaning, parks, and tree work. We also have increases of $160,000 from our other post-employment benefit trust distribution, a $90,000 increase in donations for various departments, a $250,000 increase in opioid revenue for the SAFE program, and then this is going to be offset by a reduction of $525,000 in revenue from the county for the SAFE program. So we actually have, more information as we go with regard to the SAFE program. And so, again, more details are being worked out, but we have hope that we may be able to make up the $525,000. But we don't put things into the budget until we actually know that they're going to materialize, because we want to make sure that all of our funds are solid before we make any changes. For transfers in, the transfer in category is up by about $400,000 over fiscal year 25-26. During the study session, we presented the proposed budget with a deficit of approximately $6.7 million. And to mitigate the deficit, we proposed a transfer from the Casino Supplemental Fund to close the gap. The budget now reflects a transfer of $5.3 million from the Casino Supplemental Fund to the general fund. So let's see. The net increase of $400,000 is attributed to a $971,000 increase in the transfer from the Casino Supplemental Fund compared to fiscal year 25-26. And this increase is partially offset by several reductions, including a $300,000 decrease in the maintenance annuity fund transfer. And this is due to a reclassification of the maintenance annuity interest. Instead of bringing it in as a transfer, we are actually bringing it in as interest earnings now. So it simply reduces the transfer, but we still get the revenue in the interest category. We have a $116,000 reduction in the general plan maintenance fee transfer to development services, and that is because we are now going to be charging those costs directly to the general plan maintenance special revenue fund instead of transferring those dollars into the general fund. There is also a $125,000 decrease in a transfer in from the Traffic Safety Fund because we are planning to buy 2 motorcycles in fiscal year 25-26 that will not be purchased in 26-27. So there's a reduction in that transfer in. And with that, our total revenue sources are $57.8 million. So now we're going to talk about the general fund expenditures. So one of the things that we wanted to do before we jump into the actual numbers is to talk a little bit about how we were able to support the departments during the budget process. And so we were able to do that by hiring personnel on a case-by-case basis. As you know, we have a hiring freeze on in fiscal year 25-26. And so the city manager very carefully considered, each position that was vacated and brought forward to be filled. And in some cases, she allowed the hiring, and in some cases, she continued to hold positions vacant. But she did take it very seriously each and every time a request was made. We have recruitment and retention bonuses, $20,000 for lateral police officers and dispatchers, $8,000 for academic graduates, $3,000 employee referral bonus, and this helps support retention within our public safety department. We consider professional development very important. Because we have so many new people, we think that training is very important, and so we wanted to maintain that as part of the budget. We have our SAFE program and our Explorer program, and this helps support our public safety department. We purchased new vehicles and we purchased new software to make sure that we have the best equipment available for staff and that they have the software tools that they need. We also have a lot of ongoing maintenance. We have tree plantings and playground repairs, replacement of parks and benches, materials purchases, electrical repairs. All of these things go into making us having a vibrant and safe community. And we wanted to make sure that we kept these things in the budget. We have creek cleaning and storm drain maintenance that is important to continue. And then we have our stormwater and sustainability public engagement. We have Earth Day and EcoWise workshops, Arbor Day, Public Works Week events, outreach to local schools. So we want to make sure that, again, we are supporting our departments. We have transit incentive programs. We have the purchase of Clipper cards to encourage the use of public transit by residents and employees. We have contracts for unhoused populations, Home First, Catholic Charities, and unhoused friends organizations. And then we have the Sonoma County Transit Fare Fee Program, and that supports students and seniors in lower income households. So again, in support of our departments, we were able to approve an IS technician for the information technology department, and we were able to fund that by swapping out some extra help that was ongoing each year. And so we took that out, and then we had a dark trace contract that I believe was explained during the study session that we no longer need that software. And so we were able to take those dollars, and with that, we were able to fund this personnel position for information technology so that they have more consistent help in the department. And here is a summary of the approved additional requests. We gave you the list in detail during the study session, but we just wanted to give you a summary here by department of the amount of additional needs requested in dollars and then the amount that was funded. So we had about $8.9 million in requests, and we funded about $4.9 million of those requests. So we also have our approved vehicle request. So we are planning to purchase approximately 19 vehicles in fiscal year 26-27. These are funded through the Vehicle Replacement Fund because we set those dollars aside. They are available to us when cars become either broken or obsolete, or it is time to replace them, when it becomes more costly to repair them than what it does to replace them. We like to, make those changes and take the cars to auction and then replace them with new vehicles. So here is the pie chart for general fund expenditures for fiscal year 26-27. It just kind of gives you at a glance the size of each department and the amount of dollars that each one contributes. And the total expenditures for the year are $57.8 million. So here we have a graphic that shows you by department the adopted budget for 25-26, the proposed budget for 26-27, the dollar change, and the percentage change. So first up is the administration department. And we have this one broken up a little bit simply because for points of interest more than anything. So we called out economic development and communication separately, but they are actually part of the administration department. So the first administration line is comprised of city council, city attorney, city manager, city clerk, and downtown development. The administration budgeted expenditures have decreased by $300,000 in the following areas. $211,000 is attributed to workforce reductions of 2 positions, a senior analyst and an administrative assistant. An $81,000 reduction in services and supplies expenditures for the city clerk, including a $55,000 decrease in elections and a $26,000 decrease in software license and subscriptions. The assistant city manager position remains frozen for another year. Economic development increased by $445,000 due to a $20,000 increase in wages and employment benefits and a $25,000 increase in contract services. Communications decreased by $66,000 due to $15,000 in wage and benefits reductions, $65,000 in contract services reductions, $14,000 increase in internal service charges. The finance department has an overall increase of $113,000. In fiscal year 2025-26, the payroll section was transferred to finance from human resources, and its budget is now included in the overall totals for comparability purposes. The $113,000 increase is attributable to $165,000 for rising medical and unfunded actuarial liability increases, $32,000 for increase in contractual services, a $45,000 reduction in wages due to frozen positions, a $39,000 reductions in services and supplies expenditures. Non-departmental expenditures decreased by $2.2 million. This reduction includes a $1.5 million decrease in transfers to the infrastructure fund for the roads, and that was the deferral of the transfer for roads from the franchise fees. A $138,000 decrease in contract services, a $29,000 decrease in information technology costs, a $108,000 reclassification of debt principal related to the Pacific Gas and Electric loan that was moved to public safety and to public works, and a $530,000 increase in reimbursements, which reduces expenditures. And that $530,000 is made up of $256,000 in workers' compensation reimbursements, $168,000 in cost allocation plan reimbursements, and $100,000 in SOMO additional personnel reimbursements. Retiree medical increased by $215,000 due to an aggregate increase of 12.3% in retiree medical insurance premiums. And the human resources reduced their budget by approximately $136,000. So this was comprised of a $131,000 reduction in wages and benefits for savings of a frozen senior analyst position. In development services, they had an overall decrease of $427,000, and this was due to a $460,000 decrease for relocating the engineering function from development services to public works. The decrease is primarily due to moving that engineering staffs and their salaries and benefits and a few of their services and supplies. There was $391,000 decrease for frozen positions, and those include the planning manager and a senior building inspector and a homeless services coordinator. There was a $500,000 decrease in reimbursements for developers' costs and a $927,000 overall increase in the homelessness budget due to the loss of the Labatt Landing grant. The public safety budget is up approximately $1.9 million due to the following. There was a $1.65 million increase in salaries and benefits. There was a $402,000 increase in services and supplies, a $620,000 in capital outlay for vehicles, and these increases are offset by a $470,000 decrease in contract services and an overall increase of $425,000 in reimbursements, which reduces the overall public safety expenditures by that same amount. The Public Works budget is up approximately $738,000, and that is because of the transfer of the engineering team into Public Works, and that was about $611,000 in salaries and benefits, $293,000 increase in services and supplies, a $233,000 increase in contract services, and a $65,000 increase in debt for the Pacific Gas and Electric loan that was transferred from non-departmental to Public Works. These increases are offset by a $553,000 decrease in capital outlay for vehicles and a $52,000 reduction in internal service charges and $141,000 reduction in reimbursements, which again reduces expenditures. Community services is up by approximately $401,000 due to a $48,000 net increase in wages and benefits, a $75,000 increase in the cost allocation plan charges, $113,000 increase in contract services and for instructor classes, a $130,000 increase in services and supplies, and a $160,000 increase in charges for services for internal service fund amounts. These increases are offset by a $125,000 reduction in capital outlay. And with that, we have total expenditures of $57.8 million. So next we give you those same numbers, except we show them to you by category instead of by department. So you get an idea of how much salaries, capital outlay, all of those different areas either increased or decreased. And as you can see, it is mainly in the salaries and benefits category where we had the majority of the change. They rose by about $1.5 million, and this is mainly due to a $1 million increase in unfunded actuarial liability costs, $880,000 in medical insurance benefits, and $200,000 in workers' compensation costs. And these increases are offset by about a $500,000 decrease in salaries due to frozen positions and 5 workforce reductions. In the other expenditures area, they increased by about $1 million, and that was mainly due to increases in contract services. Development services had a $1.1 million increase, and that's mainly because of the Labatt Landing grant ending, and so those expenditures now end up being charged to the general fund. There was a $233,000 increase in public works contracts and a $112,000 increase in community services contracts. There was an overall decrease of $468,000 in public safety contracts and a $138,000 decrease in non-departmental contracts. So we also had an additional $168,000 increase that is attributed to the cost allocation plan expense. Internal service fund charges increased overall by approximately $100,000, and that is because we had a $46,000 increase in information technology charges, $389,000 increase in vehicle replacement fund charges, We had a $56,000 decrease in general liability charges, and we had a $274,000 decrease in fleet charges. General liability decreased due to moving eligible staff costs into special revenue funds. And then the fleet costs are reduced because we used a portion of the fleet services fund balance to fund a portion of their budget. Thereby, we were able to reduce what we charged the departments for fleet services for the year. Capital outlay decreased by $93,000 due to less vehicle and equipment being purchased over last year. Reimbursements, which reduces costs to the general fund, and that decreased costs by about $800,000, and that's from various special revenue funds. So there was $350,000 for the supplemental law enforcement services, $100,000 for SOMO additional personnel, $169,000 from the community facilities districts, $50,000 for the SOMO public service fee, and $168,000 for cost allocation plan reimbursements. Transfers out decreased by $1.5 million because we are not making that transfer this year.
Thank you, Ms. Hosen. I'm going to present this particular section here. And it's important to talk about this. As you know, the budget is a constant moving target, and our revenues could go up or they could obviously be reduced. And in most cases, what we're seeing is instead of going up, they're going down. And it's important to understand, I mean, when you look at the numbers, especially, Ms. Holtz just finished talking about our expenditures, when 61% of your budget is salaries and benefits, we know personnel costs takes the bulk of our budget. And as you saw in this budget going in, we continue with the 18 frozen positions that are impacting basically each department of the city, and also the staff reduction, that we had to unfortunately do this for this fiscal year we're in, and obviously going in, the 5 positions that we had to, unfortunately, positions that we laid off. If obviously our revenues, our money that's coming into the city is reduced, we have to take actions. And we know this will affect service delivery and those services that our community expects from us and really values in the community. But again, reminding the council that if 61% is personnel costs, we have to look at, the personnel side, right? I mean, there's so many reductions that we've done already in operating budgets, but as you can see, that obviously is very minimal. So if we were to find ourselves having to look at reductions, we would look at, okay, what can happen? Obviously, public safety is a department. I mean, right now, when you go back and you look at how much they represent from our expenditures, they're about 48% of our expenditures in terms of a department. And so we would probably see that department impacted because of lack of cash. You already saw certain actions that were taken, obviously because of staffing levels, but all of that is affected because we're looking at our compensation as well. And so those are issues that really impact the city. We had to pull our school resource officer. We no longer have a cops unit, traffic unit. There's potential to impact any kind of fire inspections, other types of inspections that really, even our business community and our housing, residential development would be impacted. We know how valuable our community and how much they value how clean the city is and how responsive we are. But we would have to look at, how are we responding to some of these areas that we need to clean, our parks, our public areas, our roads. You already heard we had to not do the transfer of $1.5 million for road improvements. We are very fortunate that our, public works team is working on an investment of $11 million, to improve our streets. But we can only do that for so long. And so we know that we're already impacting, that allocation, looking at our, our water. We've been talking about our water resources. And so those are all, and I know that the team takes a lot of pride, and we get a lot of positive feedback that as soon as a member of our community submits a request through the app, I mean, our staff is out there within 24 hours. And I'm very proud of that. But again, if we have reduced resources, then our response time would be delayed. And we know what that would mean is people would start calling you and would start saying, because I think our community is used to us responding to graffiti basically within a day. And so those are all things that really would impact the community. Disaster preparedness, our delayed response to encampments, to other potential needs in the community. And of course, you saw community services is about an $8 million department. We would have to look at, do we have to reduce operating hours at the sports center, at the performing arts center, senior center, our pools? Those are all areas that we would unfortunately have to look at because, they do represent also, a large amount of our operating budget. So we just wanted to pause and just a reminder that we monitor our revenue sources, and if there is a situation where we're seeing that they're trending, downward, we would have to come back. I mean, the city has a fiscal impact policy that we do follow in case revenues fall at a certain percentage. But these are all things, again, that would impact the community, unfortunately, and we just have to, again, remind ourselves that we have to keep an eye on our revenue sources. And, of course, our expenditures. So thank you, Ms. Holst.
So the next
Mayor, I apologize. Can I just say something on that really quick? I just want to clarify, as it says, it's potential reduction. So when we're talking about the school resource officer, this council did not cut a school resource officer due to funding. A school resource officer was recently pulled due to personnel training and staffing. Yes, and that is correct because we are training staff and the goal is to bring the school resource officer back. But part of that also is because of our staffing levels. And as you saw, we have had a departure of officers leaving our agencies, and part of that is looking at, how are we compensated? And public safety is not the only department where we're seeing that. I mean, this is affecting us citywide. Public Works is the same situation. I mean, we have we train and then they leave. And so that is a constant issue that we have to deal with. And that's why one of our priorities is workforce retention, because we know we need to pay attention, to our compensation. But thank you, yes, for the clarification. Thank you.
Okay, so the next thing that we wanted to do is just to bring back and remind you about the 5-year plan that we prepared. And so these were the assumptions that were used in preparing the 5-year plan. And again, this is just a reminder of what we had presented to you previously. And we are starting work on a new 5-year plan. So 5-year plans are great, and they kind of show you what's going to happen should you not control your expenditures or should you not have the revenues that you want. But they aren't useful for very long because things change. We are constantly changing. There's, new revenues that may come in. We may lose other sources of revenue. We have new programs that come in, and we have council priorities that may change as well. And so we just wanted to, give you a brief review of this and to let you know that we are working on a new 5-year plan, and I do plan to have that for the next budget so that it will be refreshed and hopefully be, all up to date. So then here's the little graphic that we had previously showed you that, if we do not contain our costs, that we are going to continue to have a deficit and it will increase. So it's just really important to keep this in mind as we are looking at our budgets and making decisions about different programs. So we can take a pause now if you would like and see if there are any questions, or the next section that we will be talking about will be the casino.
Council, does anyone need a bio break before we continue? Could we take 5 minutes so that we can come back fresh and ready for this? Okay, thanks. We are back and better than ever. So where we left off was whether or not council has questions, discussion, or direction on what we've received so far in the presentation. And Councilmember Adams, you mentioned you had a question.
I do. I've spoken with the finance director about this a number of times. I just want to clarify this. At the very beginning, I don't want you to go back to the beginning, but you say we have a $10 million deficit. But when we leave here tonight, we are going to have a balanced budget. And I would like you to explain that to the people who live in Rohnert Park about the fact that what's the difference between what you put up there and we're walking out tonight, that why you use the word deficit?
Okay, I'm absolutely happy to explain that. So when we start with the budget, we are talking about a budgetary deficit, and that's the putting together the budget. Do our revenues equal our expenditures or not? And
well, if I could just do your revenues equal what the staff is asking to spend, not what you've already spent, correct?
Correct. This is all in budget land, trying to put together a budget that is balanced. And so we start by looking at our revenues and our expenditures. And we have a situation where our revenues do not keep up with our expenditures. And so we have to find ways to fill that gap. And one of the ways we did that was by reducing costs. And so we were able to reduce expenditures. The other way that we filled that gap is we decided to not transfer $1.5 million of our revenue over to our capital improvement plan projects where we could spend it for roads. The other thing we did was we took $5.3 million of a special revenue fund, and we sent it to the general fund so that our revenues and expenditures at the end of the day are balanced. So revenues minus expenditures, we had a budgetary deficit. We brought in $5.3 million as a transfer in. So because we do count transfers as revenue, our revenues and expenditures now equal each other. So the problem with that is that the special revenue fund that we transfer in from are the casino supplemental funds, and they are finite. So we are limited in what we receive every year, and without those dollars coming in, we would not be able to sustain the city's work. So on a budgetary basis, when we start, we say we have a deficit because we haven't considered the special revenue funds, which we are trying to consider one-time funds so that we don't become overly reliant. We can't, they are limited. So if we continue to spend, eventually we would have more money going out than we can coming in. And that's what happened 2 years ago. We were spending more of our casino funds out than we had coming in, and we were using our fund balance and eating those funds down. So when we get to the actual operating year, we also make sure that we are not deficit spending. So because we have a balanced budget, we report to you at mid-year, we track all year long. Should we have a problem where our revenues dropped off, we would institute our financial crisis response plan, and we would take immediate measures to reduce spending in order to be able to make sure that we ended the year in a good position.
Thank you. I just want to comment that in Rohnert Park, we only spend money that we have on hand, whether it's coming in through our revenues or our one-time special transfer. We are not spending more money than we have to spend. And if it gets to that point, then we institute your emergency plan. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Thank you very much.
And maybe if I just to put it into context and perspective and provide you an example, the equivalent of the transfer, so if you go back, and I was going to go back to that slide, but I'm just going to verbally say it. So the way that we are balancing the budget is by transfers in of one-time special revenues. Like we said, we are not putting in, we basically are not spending $1.5 million on our roads because we need it to balance the budget. And then we are also doing it with the transfer of the revenues that we get, from the MOU that we have with the tribe. So when you look at the total transfer, and, in the beginning, we have a slide, and I know at the end, when we end the presentation, you're going to see, we brought in to transfer to the general fund $6.7 million. So, and I put this pie graph here because, in essence, that is the equivalent of us funding the Public Works Department. So I want you to think about that for a second. So if we did not bring in that 6.7, I mean, that's basically not funding, the Public Works Department. So that's how important it is, for us to be looking at this. By doing transfer sins, yes, we have access to that funding, but that's not sustainable for us moving forward. And this is why, we have been trying to educate the community on understanding what's happening. And I wanted to give that as an example, because if you're out there in the community, you can say, yeah, we transferred in basically the money that we need to, fund our Public Works Department, because that's really the equivalent of what was put in, to the budget.
And I will say, having attended a couple of your community chats, is that what you're calling community chats? Yes. I think you've done an excellent job explaining that to the community. And I've seen people sort of look at your boards and say, oh, I see the problem, because it's been explained very clearly. Anybody who wants to understand the information is there. And again, I appreciate the work that you've done to not just educate the community, but to educate us so we know, we need things to start popping up. And I like the kind of hopeful direction in the future. But right now, I appreciate the responsibility or the responsible approach you're taking in the city.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams.
Any other questions? Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about are the casino special revenue funds. And so again, to give you a little bit of background, these are the different funding sources that we have with the tribe, and some of them are more restricted than others. So the Casino Mitigation Fund is somewhat restricted, and we get about $4.5 million, and we use that fund to mitigate impacts from the casino. That is specifically what those dollars are for. We spend directly out of that fund. We have staff assigned to that fund, and so we use those dollars for beautification, and we do a little bit of public safety with those dollars, because, we do get calls in that area as well. And so that is pretty restricted, and we can only use that for those things. And if we did not have that, then those people and those services would either have to be absorbed by the general fund, or we would have to reduce those services. So we have the Casino Supplemental Fund, and this is the fund that is the least restricted, and this is the fund that we use to help support the general fund. It also helps support capital improvement projects. So even though we get $7.4 million annually, we sent 5.3 this year, but the difference can be banked to help pay for capital improvement projects. Otherwise, we don't have a funding source to pay for all of those projects that City Manager Piedra was telling you about with, our roads and the trees and the parks. We have the circulation improvement money. That money is no longer coming in. We got our last allotment for that in fiscal year 25-26. We have the neighborhood upgrade money of $1.4 million, and we have requested to be able to use some of that money for Alicia Park. We do need to make that request to the tribe and have a conversation with them about that. Then we have the Rohnert Park Foundation, which isn't part of this presentation. You'll be getting a separate presentation on that, but we get about $1.4 million, and that is restricted. And then we have the Wilfred JIPA money that we get $532,000, and that is specifically for the maintenance of Wilfred Avenue. So we had a change for the Casino Supplemental Fund, and we had a placeholder in this budget from last year's capital improvement plan for $250,000 that did not get carried forward into this year's budget, and so we have removed that transfer. And so we removed that, and then we added in the transfer out to the general fund of $5.3 million. And so that was the change that we made here. And so this was a graphic that we had showed you during the study session, and it just gives you a reminder of our casino supplemental fund because it is the least restricted. And so you can see that we have gray is the revenue that comes into the fund. The dark gray was the traffic circulation revenue that we received for 3 years, but you can see it is not in 26-27 budget. The red line are the expenditures, and that red line for 25-26 is so big because we made some transfers out of this fund over to the capital improvement plan. The light green are the transfers out to the general fund. And so here's just a little chart that recaps it a little differently, and it shows you a 5-year history of the casino supplemental fund. And so we're going to have about a $5.6 million projected ending fund balance after we implement the fiscal year 26-27 budget. And that is a projected number. So then here are the balance of the casino funds. This includes all of them. We've got the adopted budget for 25-26, proposed budget for 26-27, the dollar change, and the percentage change. And so this is just a recap. The details are in your budget book if you want to see specifically what these are being spent for. But we just wanted to be able to give people a snapshot of each one of the funds. And so all in, we are expecting to spend about $12.56 million. And then here we have the estimated beginning fund balance, projected revenues, projected expenditures, the estimated ending fund balance, and we included a column for any contributions made to the general fund. And as you can see, the casino supplemental fund is the only fund that is sending money to the general fund. All of the other funds, we generally spend out of those funds directly. Are there any questions on the casino funds?
Can you just go back
one slide? Do you have a question, or you just wanted to see it? Okay. Okay, so now we will speak briefly about our other fund expenditures. So in the special revenue funds, we had 2 changes. And again, these were items that were in the previous capital 5-year plan, and we did not implement these 2 items, and so we have removed them for the budget. So the general plan maintenance fee, we removed $25,000, and then for the Southeast Pacific regional traffic fee, we also deferred that program for $60,000. So those were removed from the budget. And then here we are again showing you the special revenue funds by the department that manages the fund. And again, this is just a little snapshot to give you an idea of the balances. We have the beginning fund balances, the projected revenue, projected expenditures, estimated ending fund balance, and then the amount of dollars that are contributed to the general fund from these special revenue funds. And these are the dollars that come in as reimbursements to the general fund. We talk about the reimbursements that reduce the costs in the general fund. And so these are the dollars that are being reimbursed to the general fund. And then for the Community Facilities District, we're going to have a little more detailed chart because there was some interest in seeing that in more detail. And so here we have, the special revenue funds under the guise of the Finance Department, Public Safety, Public Works, and Community Services. Same thing, estimated beginning fund balance, revenues, expenses, ending fund balance, and then the amount contributed to the general fund. So all in, these special revenue funds are going to be contributing about $3.1 million to the general fund. And then here's the more detailed chart for the Community Facilities District. So we have each one of the funds across the top, and then we have the type of expenditure down the side. And so that you can just see exactly what we are spending the monies on for each one of these special districts. Then we're going to take a look briefly at our internal service funds. We have the Information Technology Fund, the IT Replacement Fund, which is a new fund this year. We have the General Liability Fund, the Vehicle Replacement Fund, and then Fleet Services. So again, we're giving you the estimated beginning fund balance, projected revenues, projected expenses, and the estimated ending fund balance. So for the IT Replacement Fund, we are taking a portion of the charges for services that we charge the departments, and we are trying to build something similar to what we have with the Vehicle Replacement Fund, because IT needs are changing all the time. Servers only last so long, laptops only last so long, and so we are trying to set a new program in place whereby when IT has needs for things, we don't have to have rises and peaks and valleys in the budget, so that we can have something that's more of a flat line, and we can replace the things that need replacing without having to suddenly charge a whole lot of money to the general fund, but trying to keep it on an even keel, much like we are doing with the Vehicle Replacement Fund. And then we have our enterprise funds, same thing. We have the sewer fund, water fund, recycle water fund, and the golf course fund. And we provide you with the beginning fund balance, revenues, expenses. We have a column here for depreciation and reserves, and the estimated ending fund balance. So for depreciation, we add back to our expenditures for that because it's a non-cash transaction. We put it in the budget because it is an expense of the fund, but it's non-cash, and so it doesn't reduce your fund balance. And so we add those dollars back in, but where you see negatives, that is because we are setting those dollars aside as part of the council adopted reserves so that we don't spend those reserves. So we know what we've got. Question?
No, just a comment. I really appreciate the detail on all of these special funds, because a lot of times, you know, you'll be in your daily course of business around town or what have you, and constituents or residents will say, well, you've got this fund and that fund and this fund and that fund. And this really lays it out as to what those funds are, what they're being used for, and how it breaks down. So the level of transparency here with regards to the financial detail, I think is fabulous.
Great, thank you.
That's it.
And can you expand a little bit on the depreciation as it relates to sewer and water? Is this related specifically to the assets like the wells, this and that, or what else can depreciate in those areas?
Mm-hmm. So yes, every asset that we have, so for our, we have a couple of different policies with regard to depreciation. So any constructed asset that's over $100,000, we are required to depreciate it. And then we have equipment that's scheduled at $10,000. So any piece of equipment over $10,000 gets depreciated. And so what we do is we look at each piece of equipment or each vehicle, and we estimate the useful life of that vehicle. And so then we do it on a straight divide it by the number of years, and then that amount of money is depreciated for each and every one of the assets that we have. And then, as you were suggesting, we do have assets. We have sewer lines, we have water lines, we have pump buildings, you know, large pieces of equipment. And all of those things are accounted for in our finance system. And again, we look at the standards for how long a section of pipe is supposed to last. And, you know, if that's 50 years, that we take the value of those items and we divide it by 50 years. And so we schedule that out. And things come onto the list every year, and things drop off the list based on whether or not we have fully depreciated those assets. And so we show that in our financial statement so that people know what the value of our capital assets are, how much the depreciable assets are, and so they have an idea of what that is. And then the ones that are negative up there, as I told you, we have reserves. The council has set reserve policies. We want to make sure we don't spend those monies because they are set aside for emergencies. And so we reduce that from the available fund balance so that we make sure we don't spend that money. So instead of having, $13 million for the sewer fund, we have 5 because we have set those dollars aside per the council's policy. Did that answer your question?
It did. I was just having trouble getting my brain around some of our assets, especially related to water and sewer, because they're so beyond depreciated, having the ability, but the reserves, that makes sense.
And they're underground, so you can't see them.
Right. Just use your imagination.
Can I have you go back a little bit? I want to go to the balance in the special revenue funds.
Tell me when to stop.
Keep going, I think. Wait. That's it. No, that's it right there. These two, this one and then the one after it. So I want to just sort of address this. Development Services Fund has, at the beginning, balance at the beginning of the year was $23 million, right? Mm-hmm. What does that money represent? That's just not, we just didn't collect $23 million and park it in a savings account.
So special revenue funds are restricted funds, whether it's development services or the DIVCA fund or whatever it is. If we have a special revenue fund, that money has a specified use and purpose. Right. And we are required to follow that specified use and purpose when we spend those dollars. And so that is why we have so many special revenue funds, is because each one of those funds may have different rules and requirements for spending. And, if someone were to inquire, we have to be able to show that we use the monies appropriately.
So in years gone by, all of that money just went into one account and you hoped that you had it there and you didn't spend it over here, right? But these by law, you're required to set. So let's go to the next slide to make my point here. You have $6 million in the public safety fund.
And that's a combination of funds. So public safety has several different funds under their management. And so we account for each one of those funds individually. So, for example, they have the traffic safety fund, they have the vehicle abatement fund, they have a variety of funds that have specified uses and, with a variety of different revenue streams. Some of the money may come from the state, some of the money may come through a charge that was set by council that said you can only use this money for this purpose. So for example, in community services, you have the Performing Arts Center capital facilities fee. So that is a portion of the revenues that come in, and we put it in that fund, and we can only use it for capital improvements for the Performing Arts Center. So we keep track of each and every one of these funds and how we spend the money.
So in the bottom right-hand corner, you're taking $3.1 million out of the altogether there and transferring to the general fund.
That is correct. So
how are you, just to tie it off, how are you able to do that since these are special revenue funds going into the general fund?
Say that again?
These are special revenue funds, yes. And you're going to transfer $3 million over to the general fund, correct?
Yes, because you're
ready to spend the money that you've set aside for the required use. Okay.
Yes.
I understand that, but I get asked all the time, why do you have $36 million just sitting there? And I'm just trying to draw the answer out of you, which I think you've done a great job. So thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Let's see if I can find where we were. Okay, I think this is where we were. Okay. So here we have we have 2 permanent funds. One of them is the Spreckles Donation Fund, and the other is the Spreckles Endowment Fund. And the endowment fund, we cannot spend the principal amount. We can invest it. And then those dollars go into the Spreckles Donation Fund, and then those dollars can only be used to benefit the Performing Arts Center. Okay, so now I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the Capital Improvement Projects Fund. So we did have some post-study session changes here, and one of them was to remove the transfer of the $1.5 million that we've already talked about. So that did not go into the capital improvement fund. And then we simply had a reclassification of $140,000. We took it out of being a capital project and we moved it into being a non-capital project. We always keep track of what's capital, what's non-capital, because we might have to depreciate it. Okay, so what we did here is we took all of the projects, and in your budget book you have that summary that has a whole list of projects under transportation system and a whole list of projects under the non-capital maintenance. So we took all of those projects, we added them up, and we gave you a summary number, and then we listed the projects to the right that are included in that number. So this is just a very brief recap of what we are doing in the way of capital projects for fiscal year 26-27. And this view is by the category. And so continuing, we have the building condition assessment, wastewater system, water system. So the total expenditures for capital projects budgeted for 26-27 is $16.2 million. And? It was really useful to see all that. Good. So now, just to have some more fun, we are giving it to you by how we're paying for it. So in the category of the non-capital maintenance, we have Measure M Parks money paying for that. Infrastructure maintenance, we have casino, neighborhood upgrade, and workforce housing is paying $1.2 million. There's $1.5 million of recreation and parks being funded by the casino. And then we have $100,000 being paid for by the community center's facility fee. And then in the transportation category, we have 3 different funding sources that are paying for that. We have the Casino Infrastructure Fund, the General Fund Infrastructure Fund, and Measure M Transportation. So you can see the categories down the side, and then the total dollars for each one of those funding sources totaled at the bottom. And then I think there's one more slide. Yes, there is. So then we have building condition assessment that is being paid for Measure H Fire, and that's for fire station remodel. And then we have some sewer preservation, water preservation, utility. And so when you add all of those revenue sources up that are, or sources that are paying for the capital projects, it equals the $16.2 million. So we kind of felt like this would be the best way to just give you a flavor of the projects and then how we were paying for the project, so you get an idea of what funding sources we are using.
I just wanted to say this is one of my favorite ways to look at it, and it has not been presented this way before. Very nice.
Okay. Okay, so here we are with the City of Rohnert Park total budget. So we've given you the dollar amount for each one of the funds, and you can see the general fund at the $57.8 million, approximately $18.5 million in special revenue fund, $40 million in enterprise funds, the $22 million in capital projects, debt service. Oh, sorry. The big reveal. We have the successor agency, and then I subtracted out the transfers out because it double counts, because you have the expenditure and then you have the expenditure for the transfer. And so we backed those out so we wouldn't be overstating for you. And so all in, we have a budget of $141,784,279. These dollars exclude the Rohnert Park Foundation, because you're going to get a separate presentation on that. And then we have the note about taking out the transfers out so that we don't double count the expenditures. And that is the presentation.
That was wonderfully thorough. Okay, so do we have the opportunity here for public comment? Okay. Council, did you have specific questions before we go to public comment? It was a lot.
No, I have no questions.
Okay.
I don't have any questions either.
Okay, great. Then, hi, public. Would you like to speak on any of the information that was just shared? We are officially opening the public comment period. Front row, second row? Back? Nope. Okay, closing it back up to the council.
Sure. So for purposes of starting the discussion, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2026-052, adopting the City of Rohnert Park operating budget for fiscal year 2026-27, and adoption of Resolution 2026-53, adopting the 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal years 26-27 through 2030-31, and the capital improvement projects as included in the city budget for fiscal year 2026-27. And yes.
I'll second that motion. Thank you very much.
Did you have questions or comments to add?
No questions, but I have comments.
Let's do them all. We did our public comments.
Okay.
No one had anything here. Your turn.
First of all, great presentation, great level of detail, fantastic narrative. I really enjoyed it, especially slides, whatever it was, 50 through 52. Those were my favorite. If you take a look at it, you know, the constant is going to be the rising costs for staff and for benefits, and that really is going to be something that we're going to have to grapple with on an annual basis. I think that we've taken a lot of the low-hanging fruit, and you've done a very good job. Obviously, that comes to an end, right? We're not going to be able to tap those resources moving forward, those franchise fees, et cetera, et cetera. So you're making all the appropriate moves to right this ship. And I will note that this does not include any potential grant money, although I understand why the flavor in Sacramento and on the federal level is very challenging right now, but there may be some relief with that. And I think that your projections are very conservative, and so I appreciate that. So it'll be very interesting when we get the mid-year true-up, how that looks and how that works out. But the tough choices still lie ahead of us, and I think we all realize that. And so as we move forward, you know, going to this more zero-based budget philosophy is really important, and recognizing that we have a structural issue here that really can only be solved with additional revenue. So I look forward to those conversations. I want to compliment you. I want to compliment your staff. I want to compliment the city manager for her approach on this budget. And yeah, and I'm ready to move forward.
Council?
I second everything that Councilmember Giudice said. I think you gave an excellent presentation. I think you broke the number of slide record tonight, but we won't hold that against you because it was just very well done. And I want to just say for the record, for anybody who can't see her face, she smiles through this whole thing. It's like, I am so excited to tell you about this. And I appreciate that too. You know, it's good when you love your work. I think your people do a great job supporting you, and I really appreciate that. We have talked a little bit here about the fact that we have special revenue funds for infrastructure, cars, park equipment, sewer, water, and IT. We started one tonight, and in the year 26-27, let the discussion begin about having a special revenue fund for people. Because without, I know it's 60-odd% of our budget. I'll look over this direction now. I know it's a big part of our budget, but without these people, I mean, we showed that we transferred enough money over in to keep our public works department. The public works department, I love the public safety department, but without clean drinking water, we are nothing. And so I don't want anybody from public works to think they're on the chopping block, because that's just not going to happen here. But I think we need to, as the situation allows, we need a special fund for people, so that when it's time to do these things, it's like a car. We need to get another car, we just get another car. We already have the money set aside for it. I don't know how to do that, but I know we have the smartest city manager in the Bay Area, and I'm confident that we'll be able to figure that out. So I agree. I think we've got no pressure. Just do your best. We'll be happy with that. And thank you very much, Betsy.
Vice Mayor. Yeah, I don't have much to say, but what I wanted to put on record is that the work that you've done, I mean, you have to be savvy with numbers. And I know that when our constituent would look into what you just presented, they will be able to follow through and understand where the money is coming in or why not. And so, also preparing them for the new reality that not only Rohnert Park is facing, but all the cities throughout California, throughout the country are facing right now, which is to deal with the money, the little that they have. So if we don't have incoming money, we cannot function. So we need to figure a way as a community, all of us to come together and to figure that out. I mean, leaving it to the five of us, I think it's an impossible task, but if we come together as a community and figure it out based on the information that you just given to us tonight, I think we will be successful, and I have trust in our constituent, and they will come on board, and we're gonna find a solution together. So thank you for the presentation.
Nothing else from me. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
All right, and so this is the part where we take action. Yes. It's time. We did have a motion and a second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye. Is this a roll call or affirmation? Okay. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Wonderful. We have a budget, ladies and gentlemen. Yippee. Whew. Okay. This is it. Item 9, committee liaison and other reports. We have nothing listed this evening, but please feel welcome to chime in if you have an update.
Sure, I'll do a combination SCTCA and Golden Gate Bridge because there's one thing that connects the two, as you have all seen with the actions of CARB, that's the California Air Resources Board. A lot of funding has been cut. Luckily, our very own Linda Hopkins was a dissenting opinion, but nonetheless, the majority voted to cut not only TIRCIP funding, but also LC TOPS. Both those funds come from Cap and Trade, or what they're calling Cap and Invest. So those funds have been eliminated. On the county side, I believe it's about a $4 million hit on an annual basis that could be used for transportation and climate projects. Down at the bridge, it's a little bit less, about $2 million. So it's just getting tighter and tighter. We had hoped for an extension, kind of like a sunset, but that did not happen. And Sacramento didn't have any stomach for that. So yeah, it's going to get even more challenging coming up. With regards to SCTCA, we approved our comprehensive transportation plan. It does keep all of Rohnert Park's priorities square and in plain view. So the bike pedestrian overcrossing is still there in the plan. The roundabout on the west side is still in the plan there, as is our active transportation plan, et cetera, et cetera. With regards to the bridge, revenue still remains down, as we're about 27% below pre-COVID levels. And so we are structurally taking a look at all of our operations, and unlike other transit organizations, we don't run empty buses, so we're constantly evaluating what bus routes are working, what aren't working, and making adjustments accordingly, because the revenue that we earn crossing the bridge is what has to supplement not only the ferries but the buses. So as a business, we have to run it like a business, and that isn't exactly what we intend to do. So the seismic retrofit is still underway. We're making progress. And I wound up with the unlikely title of Chair of Finance and Auditing for the bridge. And so It's been a lot of extra reading, I could tell you that. And as a consequence, I'm on the pension board and also part of the bargaining unit, and the bridge has 24 separate bargaining units. So, yeah, I will note that the ferries were up 41% this month over last year, and that is because we had an abundance of Giants home games. And so the success of the ferry, to a certain extent, is tied into those special events that that take place. And that is my report.
Yes.
All right. So we had Sonoma Clean Power Board of Directors. We met on June 4th to finalize the 2026 Integrated Resources Plan and review capital project milestones. The session focused on transitioning from our procurement base agencies to an asset-owning utility, emphasizing local generation to mitigate rising transmission costs. So we also moved our 100% hourly emission target. So the plan for that specific issue was to move beyond annual average to ensure clean energy generation matches loads on an hourly basis, basically targeting the displacement of natural gases during winter peak. And also on a local generation goal, so that was a target of 100 milliwatts of local solar and storage was established. So this is a significant scale up from the current 10 megawatt that we have, and will require coordinated land use planning with Sonoma and Mendocino counties. We also talk about the infrastructure deferral by prioritizing local resources and virtual power plant. The agency aimed to reduce the need for expansive PG&E transmission and distribution upgrade, which now accounts for nearly 70% of total of power cost. We also, the board approved a strategy to stop purchasing short-term hydropower to top off emission labor. These funds, the $5 million per year, will be reallocated to local capital projects. We also say goodbye to our COO, who retired. So the board recognized Mike Kosalka for his 7 years tenure, during which he oversaw the agency growth for 20 to 60 employees and institutionalized staff management. And we also, at the same time, welcomed a new member in our leadership, Meredith Stanton. She was introduced as the new director of marketing and PR. So Sonoma Clean Power is doing very, very well, and they're taking care of all the customers at all levels. So.
Thanks for that update, Vice Mayor. Okay, with no other communications, we will move on to item 11, which is adding any agenda items to future council meeting agendas. And with no enthusiasm from this group, we will move on to item 12, public comment. Is there anything that is on your heart that has not been covered already today? Now is the time. Public comment's open. And it's closed. Okay, great. So we will adjourn, but anybody who wants to stay, we have another meeting. It is the Rohnert Park Foundation meeting. So do we need 30 seconds? Are you ready to go, clerk? Yeah, 30 seconds. Okay. Please hold. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tuesday, June 9th, Rohnert Park Foundation special meeting. Let's call this to order. So first, we'd love to take roll. Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just say for the record that all the directors are present.
True. Okay. And with no presentations on the agenda or executive director or treasurer briefings, I will move on to public comment. Does anybody have a comment on the agenda or otherwise? No? Okay. Closing public comment. Now, on to the main show. We have our consent calendar.
I move the consent calendar.
Yes.
I'll second.
Love it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Super. Okay, on to action items. Consideration and adoption of the Foundation Board Resolution 2026-002, approving and adopting the operation budget for the City of Rohnert Park Foundation for fiscal year 26-27. We'll take a presentation, please.
Well, once again, good evening, members of the Rohnert Park Foundation Board. On April 16th, the Foundation Board held a study session on the City of Rohnert Park Foundation's fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget. Based on the results of the study session and other changes being recommended by staff, we are here today to present the proposed budget and recommend adoption. There has only been one change to the foundation budget since the study session, and staff made a $50,000 reduction to the Public Works for the street sign replacement based on updated numbers from Director Henderson. And so we are removing $50,000 that was to be transferred to Public Works for street signs out of the budget. As presented in the study session, the Rohnert Park Foundation is projected to have an overall increase of $44,000 in sources for fiscal year 26-27. This increase is made up of $5,600 increase in interest earnings, a $20,000 increase for the toy drive, as this is the first time we are budgeting for this item, and approximately a $19,000 increase in contributions from the Federated Indians of Grayton Rancheria. As always, we are very grateful to the tribe for these contributions to the Rohnert Park Foundation. These funds are received in quarterly installments, and the first quarterly contribution for fiscal year 26-27 is expected to be received by the end of October. The foundation has a proposed budget with an overall increase of approximately $2 million in expenditures for fiscal year 26-27. We have $300,000 for the new cycle of the small grants program, $1.1 million for services and supplies, an increase of $200,000 due to a new donation from the foundation to the Public Works streets, and that's $100,000 for signs and $100,000 for the banner program, a $16,000 increase in contract services, and that's $8,000 for the SurveyMonkey for the grants platform that we use for the small grants program, and $7,500 in legal fees, and $1.5 million increase from the foundation to capital improvement projects. And these projects include $750,000 for the community center building condition assessment implementation, $450,000 for the Burton Recreation Center roof, $120,000 for the Roberts Lake Dock assessment and improvements, $60,000 for park benches and shade structure replacement, and $125,000 for the community center flooring replacement. So here we have a breakdown in more specificity of the expenditures that are planned for the foundation. So we had broken them down into categories. And so the first one is the special revenue funds, and we're asking for $10,000 to subsidize the Public Safety Explorer program. And then we have General Fund Community Services, and we have a listing of items that we're asking for support for the Community Services Department. $8,000 for dog obedience training. We'd had a grant for this last year, and the program was very, very successful, and so we would like to continue the program with a grant from the foundation. We have $10,000 support program funding for underserved youth, $25,000 support for community family events, $27,400 for the Performing Arts Center concession sales, $60,000 support for those Performing Arts Center events, and $160,000 program and event support for youth recreational programs. And that's a total of $290,400 for community services. And then we have requests for Public Works. There's $100,000 for the street pole banner program, $150,000 for stormwater maintenance for creek sustainability, $100,000 for the street sign replacement program, and $315,000 for park maintenance of playgrounds and beautification. And that's a total of $665,000 for Public Works. And in public safety, we're requesting $10,000 to continue the emergency preparedness that we started last year. And that's a total of $965,400 in total requests for the general fund. And then we have the foundation programs. And so that includes the $300,000 for the small grants program, $22,000 in fee waivers, $30,000 for the utility art box program, $45,000 for the city gateway entrance signs, $20,000 for the annual toy drive, and $1.5 million for the city project transfers, which I gave you the details on that on a previous slide. And so for foundation programs, that's about $1.9 million in requests. And lastly, we have the requests for the operations of the foundation itself. So about $2,000 in advertising needs, $19,000 in concessions, $1,650 for purchase of permits, $500 for bank fees, $20,500 for contracts, and that's for legal audit and the surveys. And then we have a $5,000 contingency set aside in case something comes up that the council would want us to do. And so that's $48,710 for foundation operations, for a total budget of $2,946,110. Yay. And so here we have a recap of the foundation. So we have a comparative for 25-26 to 26-27. We have our total sources of $1.6 million, an increase of $44,300 over last year. Total expenditures of $2.9 million, and that's an increase of $2 million over last year, which is a net increase of expenditures in $1.9 million. So we have a beginning projected fund balance of about $2 million, and at the end of the fiscal year, we have a budgetary projected fund balance of $747,820. And that concludes my report.
Council, do we have questions?
I have questions.
Have at it.
I can ask her offline.
Do you have really brief questions? No? Okay. Comments?
Yeah, are we going to do public, are you going to do public comment right now?
Sure.
Okay.
Public? Do you have any comments? No? Okay. We're good.
Well, first of all, I just want to express my gratitude to the tribe. I don't think there are many communities that can say we have this robust of a foundation program in our city, and it is all due to Federated Indians of Great Rancheria. Of particular note, the $300,000 that are going to be poured into the community's nonprofits. And historically, as those grant applications have come in, the majority of them have been to serve the kids, children in our community. So that is wonderful. And then the other projects that we're doing around town, speaking to the heart of the tribe, whether they're environmental projects and water projects, et cetera. I just think that we're very, very grateful, and I'm glad to see that we're pushing the money out the door, and that it's actually going to the folks and the causes that we need to support. So I think that's great. I don't think, accumulating money in any foundation is a great idea. I think delivering on those services is what we're all about. So just expressing my gratitude and looking forward. And I guess I do have a question, I'm sorry. When is the small grants program, I've been asked several times, when is that opening up?
It's going to open up during summer.
Okay.
This year.
Okay, and who's handling that, or we don't know?
So that's, well, it's through the city manager's office, and right now Kevin is kind of taking the lead on that project, and with support from finance.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept this budget, and I think it was excellently presented. And again, I find myself in total agreement with Councilmember Giudice that I love to see the money going out the door into the community. Thank you. So there's a motion on the floor.
I'd like to second that. Gotcha. Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Super. Another budget. Done. Thanks all. This meeting, unless you have communications for the board, is officially adjourned.